Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Fight Night Rising. My name is Khroen, and alongside me, per usual, Boopasaurus. Boop, how are you doing? How are you excited to see some TFT action? Because we're on a new patch.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I literally just, tweeted out the tweet by giantslayer and called you handsome. So I'm very much excited about what's gonna be happening today because the meta seems to be changing every 2 days or so.
Oh yeah, just think of how many times that the last patch meta changed. People were commenting, "Oh, this thing's broken," and Mortdog saying, "Oh, be the innovator, go ahead and innovate." And people actually did. Then we got to that Vayne meta, but she's been nerfed. Now we got to find people innovating even more and see their approaches to the meta, of course. And before I go any further, let's introduce the players that we have here tonight because we have some solid players per usual. Boop, we got Chewy, who won last week. We got Marcel P. We have Strigar. We have Tain, gyalu baby, Jirachy, Althenian, and Kuzma.
Okay, so a couple familiar names here, a couple newer names. Names that y'all might remember from the past are Marcel, who was insane in the early game last week, versus Chewy, who seemed to be a little bit more of that late game player. And now that we've got a little bit more time on the patch, comps that tend to favor that late game hyper scaling fashion tend to do better as patches go on. So we'll see if Chewy's gonna continue to find success, or if someone like Marcel and Jirachy, who like to start really, really quick, are gonna be able to jump right in and try to take the dub.
Definitely. I remember Jirachy starting out with so many 100 HP win streaks and kind of taking it from there. But let's take a look at the prize pool right now and see what all these players are going to be competing for. Like usual, it is going to be, well, it's the players. Just get to say hi, players again.
Hey, hi.
Here we go,
How's
the prize pool. We know the players, and now we get to see what they are playing for. It's going to be $200 total, 100 of which goes to first place, second place $50, third and fourth place $25. Top three will be invited back for next week's competition. Get to be able to see if they can hold on to their rising crown like Chewy was able to claim it last week. But we get a lot of new winners a lot of the different times, Boop. So, and definitely on a new patch and on a new set like set 5, it really could be anyone's game.
It really could. I mean, the name of the game, as said by the Mort God himself, is innovation, right?
Yeah.
Where can we go from here? We know what's good, but are you willing to sacrifice a little LP to find out what could be even better? And if you guys are, if everyone at home, all my gamers at home in the chat watching right now want to take a little bit more of a closer look at some of our players, and you are on PC, you can go ahead and hover your mouse over the screen, and all of the information is going to be there for you right now. But we're going to be going into game here really quickly, and something that I'm actually really curious about is after these Leona changes, almost everyone started that redeemed Leona start with a knight to splash in, and I wonder if we're going to see some other openings, maybe some brawlers, maybe some more Hellion openings as well.
Yeah, I think some players do still prioritize the redeemed opening if they're able to get it. Sure, Leona was nerfed, but she's still an okay unit. You're 3 redeemed early, still going to be solid. You can have a Varus carry into the mid, maybe late game, depending on how high roll or not that you're getting. Same with the Syndra, honestly. Syndra is still very good. If you get some AP items like a blue buff on her, she can still do a lot of work. Honestly, I've even still seen, even though Vayne got nerfed, I'm still seeing like Vayne comps do okay. I'd be curious to see if anyone does still like force the old kind of methods of last patch, because even though they got nerfed, like just that doesn't mean that they just can't be played anymore at all, right? There's still so many things that can work, and when everyone else is experimenting, try to find something that's new. You might not optimize it perfectly, and you still will fall prey to things that people have already not so much solved, but know how to run, I guess, more consistently, even if they are a little bit worse than last patch, right?
We saw a competition right after the B patch, and every single unit that got nerfed won a lobby at some point during last week's Fight Night Rising. It was kind of the story or the narrative of the week is, it seemed like some people went away from some of the nerfed units like the Aphelios, but then what
Yeah.
that did was open it up for someone to kind of hoard it all for themselves. And yeah, CC can be any team, right, if your CC stacks correctly, but in the end, sometimes a patch is an opening if something gets nerfed. And
Yeah.
so I'm really, really curious to see how these older team comps do against some of these newer ones that we might see, especially with all of the trait changes and the slate changes that we got for Abomination, for example. If we're going to see any Abomination strats at the beginning of the game, now that the ZZ Rock can now go back on that Abomination at a lower level, of course.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I believe it was 3 abominations still the same, but like 4 and 5 abominations have been buffed. So you're actually able to get those online. They're going to be able to find a lot more success. What you will also find success with actually is a Pantheon. Pantheon is kind of nutty, kind of never dies. Basically all the skirmishers it feels like got buffed. So
Yeah.
definitely with this shop having an Udyr or pair of Udyrs, excuse me, in it, Chewy's definitely going to be looking at that skirmisher opening.
You can definitely get ahead on attrition in this particular meta. There are some people who take the early game by the horns and try to get that 10-game win streak to Wolves. And if you do that, you're just so much better set up for that 4th place or higher just based off of attrition or how much of a lead that you've developed. What's really interesting in this lobby is that we've got 2 people who are well known for starting off really fast. So I wonder if they're going to be competing against each other for certain comps, and that's the Jirachy and Marcel P, who we're seeing right now. Chewy tended to go with the mid-game / late game oriented comps, but right now we're playing best in board. Pantheon got a buff for some reason, and that last I think he was fine. But remember, after this ult, he also gets an attack damage increase after it. So if you have like a spare Thief's Gloves, like you need someone to put it on, Pantheon might actually be an okay choice as we get our 3 skirmishers in, potentially,
Yeah.
once we get this Trundle on the board.
I would definitely think that's the route. It does give you 2 Dragonslayer as well, which is still a very impactful synergy in the early game. Moving on board with Jirachy. Jirachy, one of the players I think you, I don't know if you mentioned, but at least alluded to the fact that they do like very strong starts. If that's the route that they're going to go, yeah, okay, level up and put the strongest unit on the board. It's not combining these synergies, but it still will just be the Yasuo. Goes up against Chewy, actually. And skirmishers might have a bit too much damage for Jirachy to deal with. So we're, used to seeing Jirachy go 100 HP until Wolves sometimes, but might not be the case right now, as, yeah, it looks like they may lose this round. Yeah, the Trundle and Pantheon will finish it out. Now, when we saw Jirachy in the, one of the first times that they played in Fight Night Rising, it seems as though the issue wasn't that they were able to get off on a strong start, but the transition away from that, like, it was resulting in like these 5th and 6th places in times where it feels like it should have almost guaranteed been a top 4. And I think that Jirachy over time has gotten a lot better at those and has really cemented themselves as a strong competitor, making it pretty far into actually the NA qualifiers for Worlds last set. Didn't, of course, get to the top 4, but still had a really impressive run.
And this is a player that has been growing their brand across a bunch of sets, and we're starting to peak. I think the Jirachy falls into that kind of class of players like Sphinx and some other ones that set 5 should be where they're playing their best, in my opinion, based off of just like the general progression of high-level players like the Jirachy. Also, props, I will never wear sleeveless shirts on camera. I'm not confident enough. So props to you and anyone else who does it. Grand Vice, I think, is the other one where I'm like, I'm just not confident enough to show my arms. Anyway, going back to this Gragas is really beefy, and what's really interesting about brawlers in the early game is it's just HP. You're not getting any extra attack damage or defense, but just raw HP in the early game is actually one of the better characteristics you can have for your champions, especially someone like Gragas, who, if with a Dawnbringer buff, is going to heal halfway through that fight anyway, because at this point in the game there just isn't a ton of damage, and if you have enough HP, there's just no way they're going to get through it. So you're going to be seeing some defensive item slams potentially on units like Hecarim to stall out the early game so we can get to the late game for certain comps.
Yeah, there was already the Titans Resolve Slam, I believe, there on that Gragas, but not going to be the case with defensive item slams for Althenian here. Althenian's already has 3 skirmishers, has the Runans, which is pretty key for Jax, and another bow. And that other bow could actually turn into an RFC. Arguably, you don't need Quicksilver, I think. Some players might say you do, but some players definitely say you don't need Quicksilver for the Jax carry, but instead can just have an RFC for him to sit in the backline and be rather safe that way. Definitely need a BT and need a Runans. Like, those are the 2 really like staple items there, and hopefully Althenian can get those online. They are middle of the pack in terms of HP and 3rd pick on this carousel. There's a Shadow Spat, which provides all sorts of interesting routes that players can go. Could even see that be saved up for a Shadow Force of Nature, and that's when, things really get wild.
And the other thing about these carousels, it's the only time that you can get a dark item, the
Yeah.
armory or shadow item, the armory and the carousel. So there's always going to be, not always, there's give and take for all of the shadow items except for a couple of them where they just
Yeah.
have completely different wordage and usage. As we're looking at Tay right now, and they have an okay economy. We did get that redeemed opening, which is going to open up Legionnaires and Knights and Rangers. So that's why that redeemed opening is so strong. It can lead you a couple different directions. And I think just like, some sets in the past, this set really tests not just how you get into it, because you can get all the redeems you want, but how you're going to get out of it. Are you going to hit the 3 and then move on? Are you going to try to get 6? Are you going to move to Invokers later? Is it, Legionnaires coming up a little bit later as well? We are not going to sit on this opening for that much longer. You can expect a lot of this to either get stronger by 4-1 or completely change by that point as we get better items and more direction.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it wants to, or at least has an option to be a Vel'Koz. Generally, Shojins and the Jewel Gauntlet find their way there. I don't think it also like has to be 6 redeemed. Some players can go that, but generally you're going to be just playing stronger units. Because you do have to have some bad units into the late game if you want to run 6 redeemed, right? Like, you have to keep Leona in, keep an Aatrox in, like Varus, and if you're going that AP composition, you don't really want Rangers in. For now, though, this will be a very, very strong board, of course, and depending on how well they can do in the early game, like, sure, Tay lost the last round, but if they can find a Varus 2 pretty quickly, you still can get to that point where you're still playing like a Captain Invoker board, which is still very strong. Like, the power level of that hasn't really wavered. It's just getting to that point that's, I think, a bit harder now these days.
And the other thing about Varus is going to help the rest of the team too. Provides a little bit of utility to get a little bit of extra damage to get through this HP that you're seeing this Gragas have. So there is no Dawnbreaker buff, but you're also seeing just, with that ultimate that does damage mitigation, plus the Titans, plus the raw HP, not a lot of damage going on these tanks. And that's why these brawler openings with Warwick and Set and Gragas can work. You do have to 2-star them.
Yeah.
But they can work, but they are, I think, exponentially harder to get out of than something like this Redeem Start.
Definitely. I think Tay pulled up the chat a little bit and typed, like, okay, that was a pretty big loss, and don't really want big losses when you're level 5 and have Varus, 3 redeemed, 2 knights. Like, this is still a solid board. Hopefully Tay can actually stabilize. It's just unfortunate sometimes you pick wrong in positioning, and that was, okay, Kha'Zix jumps on top of my Varus, and even though Varus isn't isolated, still will just fall in a few auto attacks, unfortunately, there. Does find some units in the Krug round, a couple items as well. Sells up to 30. Has another potential Jewel Gauntlet. Generally, double Jewel Gauntlet's a little meh, not really. Best in slot for thinking about the Vel'Koz down the line. On either like a Hand of Justice, like Shadow Hand of Justice, or like a Gunblade to provide a little bit of healing and survivability. Otherwise, you just kind of fall over sometimes to a slight breeze.
Oh no! Someone sneezes and you get like KO, flawless victory. The hard part about what you saw from that last board too is that there's no plays that Tay can make. Right, you're just probably going to lose the next couple rounds, and you got to try to get your econ up. As we have the same start, different itemization here. A couple units are different, but this is still that same redeemed package that we saw Tay running this time around. Though it is going to be on Marcel, and that also makes sense. Marcel, one of the best rollers in the entire game of TFT, and now that this redeemed Syndra is all powered up, look at that damage. One more ult from the Syndra should be good enough. It's a race.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe if it's not, okay, it is going to be. However, that redeemed power coming online. Marcel goes on a 3-win streak, and like look at these items, right? And when the units, that's a Syndra tier 2, Poppy tier 2, and Aatrox. Aatrox benefiting from Legionnaire as well, as just having like really, really solid Draven items, probably. It still can find its way into other units. Aphelios probably being the other one that benefits very heavily from Last Whisper, IE combo. But right now, Aatrox, especially with being buffed, right? Aatrox is buffed. He can carry those items just fine.
And Warmogs is another great way to make sure that someone like Aatrox gets to those on-hit effects, right? Because Aatrox doesn't have a traditional ult where he stops casting and does something special. It's just an enhanced auto attack with more HP recovery. And with that Warmogs, you're actually going to get a little bit more out of it and get to that ultimate a couple more times, because we are getting to the point where that raw HP's advantage is almost gone. But Warmogs, great item to slam on, I think, early. You see a second one on the board, on someone else's board. It's just,
Oh yeah.
again, raw HP is a very valuable stat in the early game, as this blue buff Katarina, one of, I think, the best designed units Mort has ever come up with in terms of like hype potential, is alive and well. I'd love to see that Katarina at some point, because watching Katarina's carry is pretty freaking hype.
Oh, definitely. 100% agree. Katarina's cleaning up boards it's just, it feels good to watch. It feels like satisfying when she pulls off.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like an actual superhero in the game, or something. It's crazy. It's super fun.
I'm right there with you. Totally agree. Marcel has the decision to make whether they want to play 2 knights or 2 cavaliers. Rel is going to be a bit stronger than anything else on the board right now, so you want to give Rel a bit of that power. Going back to your point on Warmogs, though, it's crazy how, like, last set, it seemed like slamming Warmogs is, like, a pretty dead item, honestly. But
It's a
now it
pro.
finds a ton of value. Yeah, now it finds value in the early game with raw HP, but it also can scale well into the late game, which is super important, right? You think about what units utilize Warmogs the best, and the 2 that come to mind are going to be Mordekaiser for one, and Garen for Garen being the other one. Garen, of course, getting a shield equal to a percentage of his maximum health, and then Mordekaiser also creating a shield like similarly as well. So those items just find value on specific units, and it goes to props like you were mentioning with the Katarina design, but also the design of other units as well, to be able to make sure these items are just getting value.
To be completely honest with you, Khroen, it feels like every item in the game has an item holder that they love, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of like a best in slot no matter who you are. Hey, you want recovery items like redemption? Someone like Hecarim who has self heal is perfect for that, right? Both versions of it. If you want Shadow Hextech Gunblade, there are people like Ziggs and Brand and other people who are going to cast a lot and actually kind of like old school Sona as a little bit of a battery to some of our units, which has not been explored just yet in these sets. So I still think there's some potential to be unlocked. For example, a Shadow Hextech Gunblade on Katarina is great, as well as the regular Hextech Gunblade, and the more evil Nomicon for someone like Katarina, who's going to be jumping around and applying that 100% over 25 seconds debuff in terms of HP loss. Katarina is going to be one of the hardest to take down unless you CC her. So while there's not as much CC in the game right now, Katarina should find themselves a couple wins.
Definitely so. Katarina 2 at this point, blue buff, very, very good. Actually, just kind of theory crafting. I don't want to go too crazy, but thinking about some of the items and what value they can find. There was the buff to Ionic Spark, the Shadow Ionic Spark, actually. And I want to see someone run a Karma, but then have a Shadow Ionic Spark next to it, because Karma will stack it up so fast. Like there's so many like cool things that I think the potential is there. I'm not sure. I think I saw like it was like Faye and I were like watching like Curm-X, and Curm-X like utilized it for a time. So there's definitely potential for these items to get a lot of value, even with like what's the item, the Archangels or like the Shadow Archangels as well. Like there are still carriers that could utilize those items pretty effectively. It just, who can figure it out? Like Mort said, who's going to be the innovator, right? Who's going to find the use?
And there's a lot more items in the game that spread out power or consolidated on one person, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in the last couple sets, I feel like it was consolidation. If you weren't consolidating power on certain people, you weren't playing correctly, right? On this one, however, you have things like Shadow Locket, which gives you extra armor, but less mana per attack.
Yeah.
And so like that kind of stuff, you know, people like Gragas don't necessarily need all that mana, and you just get that HP all of a sudden is armored. You know what I mean? So you have that 1,000 HP for 4 brawlers, you have 2 shadow lockets. All of a sudden, you don't need the other tank stats, right?
Exactly.
So there are so many potentials of other units carrying items to buff you. That's not just Zeke's and Locket, but you know that stack across each other. I think there's like a way to get Knights, Cavaliers, and Mystics all in the same comp to do like 80% damage mitigation on both physical and magic damage, which is nuts. But you need the right items, and you need to think of it as like a macro approach. But there are still those things to be discovered. I feel like we're still just gracing the surface of, especially like the mid game in this set.
Definitely. While we nerd out about the possibilities this set, just quickly, you know, turning the focus to what's happening on the board, because Tay has found the Varus too, but his 35 HP on a 7 loss streak, 4 Knights is not enough to get through this. And yeah, I guess we kind of see why here. There's a Leona in the front line with Warmogs, but nothing really else. Like, it's just Nautilus 1, Thresh 1, Lux 2, but she's just not really doing enough. Other items coming through here, but this is the time for Tay to really roll it down and find that AP carry, find the Vel'Koz, and finds it on the first couple of rolls. It goes in. Varus needs to be sold right now. The items need to be transferred over. Oh, wait, they double rolled past a Garen, I think. I'm pretty sure I saw that correctly.
I didn't quite see it myself as I was looking at the items and figuring out where exactly those were going to go, because this is the thing. Something that I've started saying a lot of is the longer you take on your first decision, the less time you have on your further decisions. And so now you're seeing these item choices get kind of made up as time goes on. And now all of those items on the site aren't going to get full value from this round. And someone like this Vel'Koz needs that damage. Are we going to be able to get there? And you can't help but wonder if we got those items in, if this was going to be, you know, as miserable of a round as it ended up being, as there's a Jax with no internal lifesteal for the Jirachy.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I will say the Jax with no Bloodthirster is very bold, no Quicksilver either, and there's a pair of them. I didn't actually see all of Jirachy's board, though. I have to get a bit of a better look at it later and see. I think Tay wanted to wait to perhaps not slam the Gunblade to see what item they got on the stage 4 armory, but like a Shadow Hodge could have been amazing, but they did slam the Gunblade. Gunblade's still very still fine. The thing is, they just need to be able to tier this up. Here's Vel'Koz to tier 2, but the rolls are coming through and no Varuses are being found, so we're not even stable right now, right? Still lost to a Jax 1 last round. We're going for, it looks like a 6 redeemed comp, but sold the Varus, so we can't put all those in. So the redeems just aren't really getting value right now, at least some of them. It's just awkward to have like the Leona in at this point. Imagine if that was the Garen that I'm pretty confident was rolled over, right?
Yeah, and we're only at 24 HP, so we got stronger, but we didn't get stronger. You know what I mean?
Not strong enough.
Like, Tay could totally lose out on the next couple rounds based off of what we're seeing on the other side of the board, as we have lifesteal on this Trundle, who also got a buff that I don't really think necessarily needed it. Look at that absolute monster.
Yeah, Trundle's actually nuts. Trundle getting past the front, like stealing the stats and then being able to go to the backline, like Trundle actually maybe just wins this.
I mean, it's
close. Yeah, there he goes.
So Trundle, I think, was capable of doing this, and skirmishers can scale exponentially, technically, right? You get extra auto attack damage on each auto attack. That's why like things like attack speed, Jax has it internally, but things like attack speed on Trundle could be fun, is you're getting your stacks a little bit faster. But I mean, when Trundle's probably going to be last on your board anyway, you can stop focusing on getting attack speed and just focus in on making him the longest unit, because he's going to be tankier than anyone expects because of that ult, right? And you can build up that Bloodthirster, for example, ult, get your health back, and then by the time you get your other ult, the cycle has continued. And that's why that unit is so crazy. But we also have a lot of utility on the board right now for Tay, but we don't have that Vel'Koz too. It looks like we may have finally redeemed ourselves. Get it? A little bit here once we get through the Renewer Abomination with that ZZ Rod. Renewer Abomination sounds amazing.
It's very interesting, actually. Huh. I mean, that just goes to show, right? There's so many potential, I guess, like routes of where you could go with things. It's super interesting. Fortunately, Tay won that round, but by no means has Tay stabilized, right? We're in a position where we're so low, we're just forced to just donkey roll it down on level 7 to hit the one Vel'Koz that we need to Nico it, but it's just not happening, right? 0 gold on 4, 5, or going into 4-5. There's no items to really... Oh, I guess there's Shadow Thieves gloves, excuse me. I didn't see that extra glove was there. So we can get a little bit more powerful after this. Hopefully they roll some good items.
Just a tad, a smidgen, if you will.
Yeah.
Depend on what your unit of measurement for small is. But 19 HP is just...
Oh! Here we go.
Not a lot here. We do have the Nikos as well. So we should Nikos that Vel'Koz.
Oh yeah, every time. There's no way that you don't. I think Tay might be waiting until the end of the round. Has the Zyra pair in the shop. Okay, yeah, there we go. Alright, Vel'Koz 2 is found. Hopefully stabilizes. Good enough to be stabilized, rather. 4 Brawler, 4 Abomination. Okay. Drop into 3 A-Bomb. But putting Mystic in instead. This Ziggs, a great item carrier. Definitely wants to go on something like a Teemo or a Heimer later. And Teemo is in the shop, so yeah, it's going to get purchased, it seems like. Yeah.
Okay. Teemo's also a really great way to, if you get it early, to get carousel priority, by the way. So even if you don't need it,
True.
and you want to, if you're like within that amount of HP, sometimes picking up a Teemo before a carousel could actually get you to pick a little earlier. So not only just for the board, but there's some other innovation, if you will. This Trundle is nuts. It is literally a tier 2 Trundle. That's
is that a Trundle or a Jax? Like, I actually can't tell the difference right now. Like, it's carrying like it is.
Seriously, the fact that that Trundle is last alive every single time mean that the effect of the best way to play it is happening, right? And once that Trundle becomes a Trundle 3, which is totally achievable with a 2-cost unit that no one really seems to be contesting other than the Jirachy, it's totally possible.
Definitely is. Nice pivot from Strigar here. Looks like they pivoted into a 4 Invoker board. They have the items for the Vel'Koz carry. They have Quicksilver and a GA. GA generally finds a lot of value on Teemo. Gives the opportunity for the Cruel trait to go off if Teemo's the last one alive. But just gonna put on the Vel'Koz for now. There's an actual Jax, but it seems like the Trundle would have been stronger. Trundle 2 better than Jax 1. Jirachy still on the Jax 1, by the way, and they're still rolling. It seems like a little bit on 7. Not all the way down, of course. They're at least 30 gold, but it's going to be hard-pressed to find 8 and find the Jax 2.
38 HP for 5th place in below, which has separated itself a little bit from that top 4, which means the top 4 has consolidated a little bit of power. That means they've been hitting a little bit more frequently and playing less Teemos. Because, again, 12 HP from this board is gone because of Teemo. So technically, if there are no Teemos, we would be in 5th place right now with 44 HP, just to put it into perspective. But because we have those Teemos, and because we have 4 Invokers, these units are going to be ulting a lot, but they're just tier 1. And at least we have 50 gold at chickens, so we're going to be able to roll, level up and roll.
Yeah.
No, we already leveled up. We're going to be able to roll down on this next go round. And we don't have that pesky extra item that always seems to be around as a, sometimes just hitting is a great way to play the game.
Yeah, apparently so. We hit another Teemo. Oh no, don't click that one. We're gonna fall from just our self HP there. Nice rolls coming through here, actually. The Teemo 2, wow, Karma and Rise probably don't need the Rise. I mean, I guess we could take out the brand, take out the Spellweaver. Really want to find the Vel'Koz too, though. It's gonna be the next step.
It's that deja vu. We needed a Nikos to get a Vel'Koz 2 earlier.
Yeah. Not finding it for now. Caustic Quicksilver, where is it going to go? It's going to go in the Rel. It does nerf her HP a little bit, but make sure that she doesn't get CC'd by other Rels, that she'll always get her cast off. I actually don't dislike that, assuming that you get her to tier 2, maybe put one other item on her. She usually can ult. Now the Vel'Koz is going to start to hit the Draven, and it is enough.
Yeah, once we got that Vel'Koz ultimate with that Shadow Rabadon's death cap, Marcel didn't really have long to live, as Strigar is going to try to work their way back up that leaderboard. And this is exactly when those top 4 boards are going to start evening up with the bottom 4 as timing. The way that TFT works is by the time you get to this point in the game, the whole point is that the HP totals have started to even up. And just look at what Vel'Koz did for Tay. It hasn't lost since we left their board, and now we've got another version of this Vel'Koz with different itemization. We have that Dawnbreaker spat that could go on someone too, maybe the Teemo, maybe someone in the front line, like that Rel. But in the end, Vel'Koz 2 is very, very strong. There's not a ton of Mystic players in the game right now, so everyone's going to really feel that Vel'Koz.
Bit of a self-shroud there. The Shadow Shroud actually affected the Vel'Koz. Sure, it affected the Karma on the other side, though, but which one's going to be a bit more impactful? Looks like perhaps the Vel'Koz. I don't think it'll matter, though. Vel'Koz ulti finds its way to the Karma. Does take her out. And yeah, the Teemo 2 is huge. Like, Teemo 2 in the last round did more damage than Vel'Koz. Sure, Vel'Koz is tier 2 right now, so Vel'Koz did about double the damage, but this Teemo is so good. And having the utility for the attack speed slow just shuts down so many attack damage comps as well. Like, if you find yourselves into a Draven or a Philios, if those Teemo shrooms land, it feels like a guaranteed win a lot of the time.
I mean, it sure does. And plus, you've got the Cruel Trait. And if Teemo, is in a 1v1, the Teemo will fizzle underneath the ground and eat you and all of your future generations. And so Teemo, you don't want to 1v1 it, and that's why this unit costs so much. I mean, it's the only unit in the game that's ever not costed money, right? So you're actually using HP to do it as part of that economy, taking that to the limit, as it's going to be Noodle versus Noodle in the corners.
Yeah, it looks like this Vel'Koz from Strigar is going to be a lot more powerful. The Volley gets the ult off too. That may seal the deal. Gunblade's good healing.
I think we're going to be fine. We're going to get another ult from the...
Maybe not.
Maybe
the Daisy
not.
Slam needs to come out a bit earlier, but it didn't. Wow, all right.
So the other thing about Ivern that I've been seeing is, have you been seeing people put auto attack based items on him?
Not usually, but I guess we have some spare ones. Yeah, it's not
exactly.
super uncommon.
It's not
awful,
right? Like, you can put like his base auto attack speed's not awful, right? So like,
I actually don't even know what it is offhand.
Happen to have a shiv at the end, like things like Giant Slayer are like fine on him too. You can experiment with units like Ivern that you're not really using the auto attacks as damage, but you are using it as like a way to debuff somebody, for example. And so those are kind of like what I feel like are like the best secondary like Thief's Gloves users are, right? Is, okay, you can put it on someone like Ivern and say you get, Static Shiv and something like a Shojin's, your Daisy's gonna ult a bunch of times. And you're gonna be able to get some mixed damage in. So again, that experimentation I think is all still going on, as we're on Chewy's board. 6 HP in a dream as Kuzma is eliminated first today.
Yeah, unfortunately, first to fall. Tay stabilized, still 19 HP on a win streak, but Chewy next one under the gun right now. Katarina being optimized with a few interesting items. The Death Cap's going to be really good, make her provide a lot of damage. The Karma survives, though, with the Dawnbringer, but actually does take out the Katarina. She's living at 1 HP, but falls. Unfortunate. With that, Chewy will fall as well as soon as the Mordekaiser. A couple of slaps come through.
It's actually insane how much longer these late game rounds last compared to other sets. Usually these late game rounds are the fastest of all of the rounds, but now with all of this beef in the front, right? You got the Rel, you got the Ironclads, you got the Knights, right? You got Mystics. These rounds are lasting a lot longer, which means units like Jax, who need ramp up time, get better. So the longer the late game rounds are, the better units like Jax become. The shorter they are, the worse they become. So if you're trying to analyze the game in that way, that's always a good way to think about it, is what is the average length of the round and who is good at the beginning of round versus the end of it, because someone like Darius and Garen are going to get their ults off. So as we get to the late game here, we have 19 HP still for Tay and that Vel'Koz, and it's looking like it's going to stay that way. One thing that I wanted to talk about, actually, we might not with that Draven on the other side. One thing I wanted to talk about is Vel'Koz did not perform well last week. It might have been just the state of the meta, but what do you think has changed? Is it the players that have changed, or is Vel'Koz just in a little bit of a better spot right now?
Yeah, the thing that changes, Vel'Koz was a 4-cost, is a 4-cost, and we know last patch how good 4-costs were. It turns out not as much. I guess that was really after, I guess a little bit after Fight Night, people started really gravitating away from that, but it is just like a meta and a patch difference. I think people are starting to give Vel'Koz more priority because it still does, assuming you position Vel'Koz correctly, on the opposite corner of these, say, like Draven carries or whatever, or even other Vel'Koz boards, they'll still find a lot of value. And people are starting to learn how to optimize their frontline as well, right? And what they actually need and how good, say, like a unit like Taric versus like Rel is, and is maximizing all of that. I think that's why Vel'Koz sees a lot more success, for sure.
So we're going to choose Garen over Taric. Taric, one of the only, actually, I think the only tank unit that heals the rest of your team. Also, pretty good carrying some extra items. Like that Renewer Spat would have been fine on someone like Taric, but we're going to sell them for the Garen, put all those Taric items on the Garen instead. So we're seeing a lot of synergies. We're seeing a lot of splashes with all those 2 splashes there, but maybe that all comes together in a beautiful fruit basket. We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully. Jirachy's still on only Jax 1. Oh no, Ironclad's in, no Mystics versus the Vel'Koz. Thing with the Vel'Koz ulti comes through. I mean, the Jax got a big shield, but the second ulti needs to come through.
This Jax is still kind of popping. If that was a Jax 2,
might be another story,
no,
but it's not.
Jax 2 is the reason why the Jirachy loses there, because I do believe a Jax 2 is there. We might still lose, but we wouldn't have been eliminated.
Yeah, I definitely agreed with that assessment 100%. Ooh, Gyalu, baby, hits a Katarina 3. So we get to see actually Katarina carry. Assassin Mordekaiser as well, which I didn't really talk about a bit earlier, but that will slap, especially the 2 Dragon Slayer buff in there.
I think that will slap is a little bit of an understatement, Mr. Khroen. That's going to be like American Gladiators jousting type of situation. You know,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Welcome to the stadium, Mordekaiser. All right, let's see. Once we get to this ultimate, look at his little legs go. Did you see that? That was really little legs. Still no ultimate. Here we go. We finally get there. Almost one-shots through a Warmog. So should be able to one-shot through most other units, but was never able to get to the back line because of Syndra.
Syndra threw the Mordekaiser away. Katarina jumped right into the Kindred ulti. Oh no, Tay falls as well, but Tay does get a top 4. 3 players remaining. It's going to be Marcel, Althenian, and Strigar. Althenian, I believe, had the Skirmisher comp. Yeah, Marcel has the Draven comp.
Yeah, Skirmisher.
Oh, it's not even a full Skirmisher. It's 4 Dragon Slayer actually variant of it instead.
But the Skirmisher units all pretty contested this game.
Yeah.
Just in general, as we have a pretty spicy Mordekaiser in that front line. Usually you have some defensive items on the Mordekaiser, but not this one, friends. And you know what? That's fine, because there's actually not a ton of other hugely tanky comps right now. So this Mordekaiser isn't getting bursted down immediately. A lot of people think that the Caustic Quicksilver is the best item for him. Wouldn't have helped there, because that Vel'Koz was a nice little counter to it.
Yep. Vel'Koz seems to be farming some skirmishers, that is for sure. Well, we have a double elimination here. Marcel on that board, yeah, looks like it's going to be taking out Strigar. So all of a sudden, oh wait, actually, wait a minute. Okay, there we go. Marcel wins it out. Althenian gets 2nd place. Marcel wins game number 1.
Oh, where you going? Where'd you go? Marcel. His little legend just, it's like, I gotta go. I gotta
out of there.
I have an award ceremony to be at. I'm sorry.
My people need me.
Yeah. Sorry. But Marcel played exactly like Marcel plays, right? Started off strong.
Pretty much.
Got strong in the, got a little weak in the mid game, got stronger in the late game,
it felt pretty methodical.
Yeah, Draven items. I mean, that's a pretty standard game of TFT, if you ask me.
Very much so. Draven, I mean, finding the success against the Vel'Koz comps. I didn't see quite the start of that fight, but it might have just been opposite side, just positioned really well. If the Draven is able to just go off, not be under threat, then boom, you can find a lobby win very easily as well. I think we see the meta that's really stabilized in front of our eyes, but let's go over first the scores of what we saw from that game. Marcel in first 10 points, Althenian in second with 8, Strigar with 7 points, and Tay did a great job at dodging the bottom 4 entirely, even just scraping in a 4th, but that was very, very hard fought, Boop.
Remember, they were about 30-40 HP away from 7th.
Yeah.
At one point, so like put that into perspective. It wasn't like we were behind, like, oh, we were in 6th place and we ended up in 4th. No, that was not the case. We were at 32 HP at Wolves, I believe, and so that's literally only 3-round losses for the rest of the game, and we ended up getting a top 4. So mad props to make that happen, because that's tough, and that's just like one of those situations where you're totally happy with the 4th place. Right, you know, and you can't win every game of TFT. It's impossible.
Yeah, you can be the best player in the world. You're not going to win every game. Sometimes you just have to play for those top 4s. You're not going to have that high roll start every single game. But still, again, very impressive stuff. I think we're starting to see the meta and how it's like shaping up, right? In terms of just what comps people are going for. It's no Aphelios at all, right? It's like Draven, Skirmishers, and Vel'Koz. Definitely by far the top 3. A little bit of mix of other stuff, right? There was like the just I mean, even the Evoker board is the Vel'Koz, but thinking about like the Katarina carry, like Assassins, that can still find its way into a top 4, if not a victory. It just needs to probably have a bit of a better items than the Katarina. There was like no GA, no healing either. There was like blue buff, death cap, and Frozen Heart. So the Katarina, if she gets into a rough spot like she did, will just fall over. But still, the composition can still be very, very strong.
Yeah, and the thing about Katarina, which makes her so hype but also so frustrating, is the targeting mechanic, right? Sometimes Katarina is kind of like old school Shyvana, where it's like, I want to die.
Yeah.
Please take me with you. And other times, she's like, she's cast like mirror image like 18 times, right? And no one can hit her, but you have to itemize her pretty well when it comes to getting her into the late game. I mean, the fact that it was still around at that point anyway is a testament to the fact that Cat got 2 buffs over the last couple patches, and that first buff was questionable, in my opinion. And now we got a second one. It's really obvious that we want to see this champ perform, and I can't wait for that either. It just doesn't seem like the mid game is very friendly to Cat. I think if we're going up against a bunch of Vel'Kozes, for example, we're getting back to the Vel'Koz and then we're jumping away right before we kill him. Right? So there's not a lot of people who were going to one-shotting and then jumping away like we can in the early game.
It depends on positioning, right? I think Katarina with like with perfect items and Coven buff in the mid game can one-shot Vel'Kozes if they are specifically in the corner and the Katarina jumps to whereas like the follow-up damage will land as well, and no rel ulti comes through. It is possible, but it's not consistent, and that's the thing, right? If it's not consistent, your Cat will just die if she's not able to kind of one-shot that. And if you're running the Coven, right, your positioning is going to be pretty hard to be constantly moving around as the rounds are, just like a couple of seconds out from happening. You kind of just like park your Cat in one spot, maybe move around like a couple, like maybe 1 hex away or a couple hexes away, but that's pretty much it. If people just swap the sides of Vel'Koz, if Katarina is jumping into the Vel'Koz and then jumping away, she's probably not going to have a great time in that scenario.
And that's when they knew things weren't going to work out.
Yeah.
And the other thing that about Coven that's really interesting is it's all born from old school karma. Isn't that crazy how like that natural evolution has happened? At first, the only unit that could ever attach itself to someone was a singular unit, which was Karma 2 sets ago.
Yeah.
Remember? And then now it's like a whole stinking class.
Yeah, you got to take a geometry course to figure out how to park your Coven value. Right?
Yeah, and we do get the blue orb 2 gold Nikos. Not anyone's favorite start. Some people are like, but it's Nico's. What's really funny, friends, is that Nico's will probably be there, when we go out and eat dinner and come back.
Yeah, pretty much.
Probably still be there as we move over to gyalu baby. And just so everyone knows, Marcel is a highly ranked TFT player, played at one of the highest levels of Clash Royale, and as well runs those Spartan races. Why do some people have it all, Khroen? I was winded going up the stairs earlier, so I mean, like, I can't fathom what being that kind of person is like.
It takes a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, a lot of just like mental fortitude, right? I think is a big factor of that. Sometimes it's hard to, get up and make some food, but hey, some people really just do be on their grind. Respect there.
Seriously, my dentist. I live in Boulder. My dentist ran 2 Ironmans in a week.
Jeez. What?
Right? Like, why
Huh?
would you do that to yourself? That doesn't sound fun. Like, at
Oh
least the
man.
Spartan races are like obstacle courses, right? But
Yeah.
Ironmans, I get nervous in the bathtub. I can't imagine swimming in the ocean. Anyway, that was a lot of information you guys just got out of me. I can't swim. That's what that story's about. Anyway,
Yeah,
game
that's
two.
what
I
I
don't
was
know
like
if you bleep
100%
that.
sure, but no,
Yep.
now we got it. Thank you for the clarity.
Yeah, you're
We
welcome.
we learned a
But
lot today.
I can't. I also can't ride a bike, so Ironmans are just kind of out.
Yeah, you just actually just can't do them. That's unfortunate. Not even the
That's
option
fine.
is there, even.
That's fine. I had an allergic reaction to mowing the lawn. Maybe I don't have to mow the lawn anymore. It's a blessing in disguise. But now that we're starting off, this is a little bit of a different opening. We have a Spellweaver opening, which can always be slapped in on the early parts of the game, but a lot of people do prefer to get a little bit more tankiness in that front line. But because we have the Aatrox too, that's going to be functioning as our tank. And Brand puts a lot of damage out there. I know Mort really loves this champ, so
Yeah.
we'll see what kind of early game stability this Brand can give you, because it's at least one unit that usually gets taken down. It's a lot. It's a lot of damage.
Yeah, if your frontline is strong enough, and with the Aatrox too, it's going to be a bit better than what we had last round. This brand was burned literally everything on the board down. Now the Ziggs 2 comes through to complement a bit of damage, securing it as well, hopefully. There's no assassins jumping onto the brand, so that's huge, at least in this matchup, but still, it's 4 units versus 3. The Aatrox is going to be able to tank a couple of spells, but the War Culty comes through. Yeah, it's not in the front line right now. Maybe next level we can put some brawlers in and be a bit tankier.
Mm-hmm. Does the Bloodthirster works on all instances of that ult, right? On each slash, or is that purely AP?
Yeah, it depends on the wording of it. Actually, I'm curious.
Because it doesn't
I
have
don't
like
think
an.
it does actually, because it's magic damage.
So it would be a
So
jeweled gauntlet that would give us more
yeah,
health back or something, or like a straight Rabadons. Okay, so the Bloodthirster is nice just to get to that ult or potentially get to a second ultimate. We are going to be getting health back for that ult as well. So we're probably feeling okay with it. We don't have a ton of synergies here, but the Spellweavers are going to help everyone get a little bit stronger. And it's everyone's ult. I don't believe Aatrox counts for this, but I think everyone else does for the Spellweavers.
yeah. You see Tay on the other side with some Hellions. Has the Ziggs, Rageblade coming through, but the brand actually hasn't cast on it yet. All the other Hellions are tanking. Okay, the brand got the ult through. This will be a gyalu baby win. And purchase. Wait, did I see that correctly? Purchase some XP there, or just bought the Lysandra? Maybe I was just buying the Lysandra actually.
And we're going to keep on rolling through this first carousel, looking at what we are running. We've got the Spellweaver, so we might be looking at more AP, or we might be looking at some mana. So we are going to get the
brand
tier.
too. With the tier. That's huge.
I mean, that ult, even though it doesn't happen all at once, it's like a more evil Nomicon in an ultimate, with a little bit more consistency. It doesn't miss. It will eat your HP away. And now that we have a blue buff to go along with this Rabadons, if we get another damage item on this brand's the real deal.
And Abomination.
Now we get Abomination as well. We just need to level up and put that Callista in, and now we've got A-Bomb 3, and it's going to 50-50 that blue buff or Rabadons. Neither of them amazing, but hopefully we get, I think, the Rabadons?
It doesn't even matter, honestly. Gyala's board went from this is looking pretty pitiful to this is the strongest board in the lobby, like by far, in a matter of one carousel and a natural roll on the Nunu. Gyala's going to be feeling really, really good about this, moving into the Krug round. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, Rabadons will be a bit better for the Scion, but either one, honestly. It might not even need to... the Scion might not even come out in a lot of these fights, to be completely honest, before Brand kills everything.
so much damage, and basically every auto attack is an ult, right? And every time
Yeah.
that spell weaver buff continues going on, they get even, they get
Yeah.
even more mana and opportunities, right? So it's kind of like a budget karma
Pretty
with that
much.
brand.
Kind of. Yeah.
Right now it's just all single target instead of single target except for the last one. But we'll check back in with that brand here in a second, as Striker and Althenian are crushing it on the top side, but that means they're going to be investing a lot more money or no money at all. And the reason why I say I bring that up is basically they're either going to be poor when they hit 3-2 and they're just going to stay and keep trying to pace the rest of the field, or they're going to be winning and keeping their economy open so that they can level up at 3-2 and get to level 7 pretty easily at 4-1, maybe earlier if you're lucky. So
Oh.
we'll see exactly where they are, as we already have a Draven at
Okay.
2-6 from
Yeah.
Striker with a Bloodthirster.
That's pretty interesting. Generally, players are not prioritizing Bloodthirster on Draven because just the Legionnaire buff means that you're healing enough to, I guess, like, not really need it, right? The Draven autos are going to be pretty thick with Last Whisper IE combos that you're healing not really to full necessarily, but at least for like almost like half your health. But the BT is going to be there. Will it remain to be there? We'll have to check and find out a bit later because it doesn't have to. But finding a Draven this early, of course, is a lot of good direction.
I mean, what other direction do you want? It's pretty much, Siri telling you exactly where to go.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, looking at that, and especially with the glove being on there,
Yeah.
it's Jax, I think, is the other thing that's gonna be on the table there. Depends on what we hit when we roll down.
And that's the beauty of this set, is if we stumble upon a bunch of skirmishers and they are able to recognize that, you can go ahead and pivot on your 4-cost carry.
Yeah.
I won a game earlier because I did just that. My carry just wasn't pushing it, and I had to trade him out, right? And I traded out the Draven for a Kale in another Verdant, and that's same items, and it ended up working out. So again, don't relegate yourself to losing. I feel like there's a lot of opportunities to come back in this set by itemization or by just changing a couple splashes, as we have a QSS on the bench for Kuzma, who got 8th pretty quickly last time around.
Yeah, definitely has a bit of an okay, I would say, board. Not an amazing board, but okay board to go like middle of the pack in HP. We have lost the last 2 rounds, but still in an okay spot. It could be a Quicksilver, it could be a Hodge, could be a Chalice as well, but not going to prioritize any of those, it seems. No items on the board for Tay. Not even like one singular tier on the Syndra. Very interesting.
Yeah, and you want that Syndra as it's in a single target, a zero ult, pretty much from last set. It's going to push you all the way back, and then you're going to have to walk back into range and then get back into the face of that Syndra, who is going to throw a potential other ultimate. But Kennen, always goes to that furthest place, and with 2 units on the board, there's only one place to go, and that is going to be some HP loss for Tay, as there was a Rage Blade and a sword on a Varus on the bench there as well.
Yeah.
There's 3 people on fire. That means that the rotations have all been the same people going up against each other, and that's why the HP totals are where they are. Marcel not having a good time, as the rotation therein is not been very friendly.
No, getting bullied by the players at the top. Okay, might see ourselves a Yasuo comp. Got a couple Legionnaires in here, as well as some Nightbringers. Vladimir on the bench as well. I'm liking this. Finding perhaps like a... I mean, there's a lot of items, honestly, that Yasuo can use. Yasuo going to be one of the, I guess, most like flexible carries in terms of how you itemize them. I could see this being like a RFC or a Hodge or a Jewel Gauntlet, like almost like even more items than that, be able to find their way there.
The Yasuo is going to be doing true damage after that ultimate.
Mm-hmm.
When that fire sword is unsheathed, but that CC is just so brutal for a lot of these units, and there aren't a lot of units that can get CC on a multiple people as easily as someone like Kennen or Ryze or Zyra can. Would it be funny if I just named the whole roster? Yeah. No one has this except for the entire roster. But no,
but no, you're
what
definitely right.
By it is that lockup, and the stuns are a long time, and with the rounds going as long as they are, that is consequential time, and so that's why, like, that debate of QSS or not, are we going triple damage or are we going to go one defensive item, I think can be tough, because Bloodthirster kind of counts as 2, right? But if you, I had a Mord 3 the other day with really good items, but no GA or QSS, and I just got CC'd forever. With some of
Yeah.
these comps with like Rel, for example. And even though it's a tier 3, CC can be any team if it's stacked correctly. So you always have to think about that when itemizing your carries. Take a look at where the rest of the lobby is going and see if you're going to be able to manage without that QSS.
Yeah, definitely. Silver, so instrumental. It seems like in some comps can't go away with it. Depends on the lobby. Nothing like that for Althenian right now. Just of course have the Rageblade rune ends in the Aswell, but also the Sunfire on the Pantheon. Look at Pantheon go. Not gonna win this round, but tanks for so ridiculously long. Like, oh man, Pantheon's nuts.
Yeah, Pantheon is insanely good right now. And by the way, puts Grievous Wounds on ya. Let's just add another debuff as well. Let's give you no damage to take. Let's give you Grievous Wounds, but actually give you some good scaling on your ultimate and your auto attack buff a little bit later too. You don't really want to put a ton of attack damage on Pantheon because he's ulting for so long. He's not really going to get a lot of that buff from him. But I mean, it's still valuable stats. But in the end, Pantheon is a wonderful tank, especially if you're trying to run Dragon Slayers, and it keeps skirmishers open. So that's always really nice too.
I did learn the other day actually that Bloodthirster does work with Pantheon while he's ulting. Didn't actually know that, but
so Bloodthirster is all attack damage, not just auto attack. So things like Callista Spear.
Yeah, that's why like Set was so good.
Yeah,
like, Set,
anyone who with just auto attack based ultimates,
like attack damage ultimates, yeah,
exactly, will do well with that. With that unit, so not someone like Warwick apparently, which is very interesting.
No, magic damage, crazy. And yeah, that's very interesting. Like the specifics in the wording have a lot of impact in TFT, of course, and we know why. Strigar still the Draven now has that shadow infinity edge, but this board there is a skirmisher. Skirmisher Mordekaiser there, but no skirmishers on the board.
Might have. Oh, I was about to say like it might have been a.
Oh wait, no, there is. I'm actually trolling. They were just scouting somebody else. Never mind. There is skirmishers because there's a Jax right there.
3. Yeah, so we've also got Knights, which and Ironclad. So these skirmishers have internalized defensive abilities, which is why you're seeing a lot of these skirmishers build completely offensive. All of that Trundle that we saw make it to like 4-4. Of that last game. I mean, solid unit overall. Also, the fastest auto attack in Leona in all of the land and all of the convergence.
Yeah, it's very interesting, right Leona. Hey, Redemption's gonna be pretty solid, and her auto attacks so that she gets her ulti off. She's tankier, can get more redemption procs off.
That's true. All of those things are true. That doesn't make them good, as I realize a lot in my innovating games that I like to play. 66 HP though for Tay is about exactly where they were. Actually, this is double the amount of HP they had the last time we were at the same round last time around, but Tay in a much better spot. We've got the Hurricane. We've got good items for Jax on the way. And again, Jax has internal Rageblade built into his ultimate. So you don't need to build that item on unless you really want to get him going really quickly. But the change is like not really that big, to be honest with you.
Yeah, at that point, it's like might as well just build another item because you already have a bit of like built-in Rageblade. Other items are so priority on to the Jax, so this Rageblade might find its way elsewhere, and probably why Leona wasn't already sold, because you can very easily just put the redemption on like a Nautilus, right, and it still have pretty similar value. But we're saving the items for something else. Probably just Rageblade early to get things going and preserve a little bit of HP. Marcel was actually running a Katarina comp, so I'm curious to check in with that a little bit later as well to see when the last item is going to go on there, because there was, I believe, a Shadow GA, which got nerfed a little bit. Now you revive with 70% health, but still, I think Shadow GA is actually one of the best items in the game. Extremely strong. And we have Katarina 2 now for Marcel's board. Ivern in the front line that does give Revenant, Renewer, and has the ZZ Rot. Is just very, very tanky. Like, this is really solid board. And we have 2 Nikos helps on the bench.
We did lose the last round, though, so I wonder how much of these changes happened in this particular round. But that Katarina is looking pretty strong as we have 4 assassins. This is not really a comp that we've seen a ton of. But, Khroen, you talked about loving running this exact version of this before we came on. I think Cat is so cool. Completely item agnostic. A lot of auto attacks on this unit, too, so things like the IE are totally fine to go as, you know, that's 2 auto attacks plus an ult plus a third before the hop, right? So you're actually getting a lot of value out of just basic auto attacks. And look at that damage chart. That Katarina absolutely blasted that team, and that Shadow GA is always going to be good on someone like Cat, right? So you're going to get 1 auto attack crit. That's fine. Right? You don't have to put that Shadow GA on Morgana. Right? It doesn't always have to go on those kinds of units. Anyone who just doesn't rely on attack speed to win, you can put this item on. So you don't put it on Jax, right? You could. I mean, by the time, you know, he ramps up again, he might be fine. But someone like Katarina, who's going to be auto ult, right, is perfect for an item like this.
Definitely. I'm curious, does Marcel actually slam the Zeeks here? Because those could be Morgana items. It could be a GA and Morels from Morgana, which would be very, very strong, but we're just going to buff up the Katarina. And making the Zeeks here makes me think that Marcel is not going to want to go blue buff Katarina, but instead Hand of Justice, I think. And specifically Shadow Hand of Justice has found a lot of value on the Katarina. Because, as you were just mentioning, the Katarina auto attacks still do a lot of damage. She only needs 2 before she ults again, and auto attacks do a lot of damage. With the Shadow Hodge, it's basically like a full heal every other cast, and getting the auto attacks in between is super, super solid. With the Shadow GA, sure, when you revive, the attacks are going to come through a little slower, but it really doesn't matter all that much. You have the Zeeks now as well to offset a little bit of that attack speed, but we'll see what Marcel is able to get on the carousel, because if it is a Shadow Glove, I think that would be the pickup. However, it could just still be a tier for the blue buff.
We're only 4 cats away from a cat 3 as well, if we want to use both of our Nikos for that. And a lot of the times the Nikos are, again, just sitting on the bench for a really long time, because the units that need it are usually 5-cost units, and they come in very late. This is very, very normal to see. So the idea is, are we going to greed, say, try to get 8 cats, right, and then do a Nikos on the cat and a Nico on a 5-cost unit, or are we going to try to belly up on this cat completely? So there are a lot of good options. This Coven is going to be helping a lot too, because cat is going to help increase the mana for other people in this comp, a la like that Lissandra and that LeBlanc from earlier in the patch. But we gotta keep this cat alive, though. That's been the issue so far.
Yeah, she's live long enough to deal with the Teemo from Kuzma, and that was huge. Teemo being the main damage dealer, had 3 items, so this round's going to be a pretty easy win. You wouldn't even known like the Katarina ever like even lost the GA in this fight. If I mean, of course, the animation actually got fixed, so you can see, as you can see now. But the Katarina revives at 70% health, right? She's pretty strong. There actually is a Shadow Glove, so this Hodge could be the case. There also is a tier, however, on the Kale. We'll see what Marcel picks. Looks like it wants to be the tier.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. The Shadow Gloves look so good, though.
I know. It's a little bit spicier, right? You know, sometimes people like putting Tabasco on their food. Some people like putting Cholula on their food. We got the Cholula this time, right? It's a little bit more flavorful, not as spicy, right? A little bit more of a full-bodied approach versus Tabasco, which is like my favorite condiment in the entire world, dude. Tabasco
Really?
ranch I could live off of. I'm a military kid, and I feel like military kids like Tabasco a lot because it's in the MREs. And it's the only way that you can like eat them, because they're so gross.
I haven't made that connection, but I guess that checks out. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, any army brats in the chat, tell me if I'm right. I'm pretty sure Tabasco comes with every MRE, and I think that's why you kind of develop an affinity to it, is because
get used to it.
Yeah, the food tastes like Tabasco as opposed to like dried meat.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Interesting. Today we learned.
Yeah.
Today we learned.
Okay, so Chewy on the brink of elimination. Let's see. It's kind of hard to see through this. The Redemption in the middle actually doing a ton of work on this Trundle, and the Trundle actually going to get a lot of value out of it because of this ultimate. Even with the Grievous, do you see how much health he got back?
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Yep.
We're gonna.
Trundle, pretty good. Shadow Redemption also very good. If you can have on a unit that survives, you don't take as much damage as before, and it heals your whole team. So yeah, good item.
Super, super good item. A lot of these shadow defensive items got pretty big nerfs coming out of PBE at the beginning of the patch. I'll never forget Faye beating us with that Hecarim that one time.
Oh yeah.
That just stood there.
It
and
actually tanked the
ulted.
whole world, like the Shadow
Yeah,
Gargoyles, and it just actually never died.
exactly. And these builds are coming back. They're not as strong as they were, I think, in PBE, but you can run them again. Especially with like how tanky units can become, like the Shadow Sunfire plus the Shadow Warmogs, plus some healing items can do a lot of work for you. With the Fallen Guardian Angel, that's a ton of just AoE damage just by standing there,
Yep.
right? And that's again a way to play this game if you like, as this double redemption skirmisher mode, not really doing much. That Trundle does not deserve to be alive as long as it is. But that Trundle seems to be one of the last units to fall in every skirmisher comp so far. And no attack speed necessary. It's just doing it with its raw stats.
Yep. I mean, the Trundle buffs that came through, I believe, what they did give the Trundle attack speed. Yeah, attack speed went from 0.7 to 0.8, and the mana got buffed. It went from 70 total mana to 60 total mana. So able to get those casts off faster, attack faster to get there even. Skirmisher buffs, man. That's why this comp is being played a lot right now. I think 3 players in this lobby are playing skirmishers. We just saw that 2 of them face off last round. A skirmish on the other side, though, only had the Runeans and the Bloodthirster. Didn't have 3 items quite yet. Perhaps a bit soon, though. Chewie levels to 8. Is going to roll. Finds a pair of Kindreds, but Kindred doesn't really find her way into this comp very regularly. Generally, you put just like a 3rd Ironclad in there, but there is also an argument for things like 4 Dragonslayer, perhaps.
You know how many times I don't realize that you're at 16 HP and you see the Teemo, you're like, oh, Teemo, and you click it, you're like, oh my god, I just I just got rid of more than a third of my HP just now.
Oh, Marcel hits Cat 3.
Oopsie doopsie, as Cat 3 is on the board. Jirachy doing the Jeweled Gauntlet, and the Glass Cannon Vel'Koz is pretty much what this is. Lots of damage, but can not take very much themselves. Yep. And with the overall tankiness of the Skirmisher comp, Jirachy gets blasted out of here.
Yeah, that was really not close. The Vel'Koz ulti, again, you know what I was saying earlier? Vel'Koz kind of just got looked at, sneezed on, and fell over by the skirmisher board. Jirachy had Viego too as well, but Viego just did not have the time to steal enough units for it to actually matter. Definitely needs a bit of better front line. Oh man, Kuzma, once again, having a rough game. The Garen's here with some good items. The Vel'Koz is tier 2'd, but we're level 7. This board's looking a little not enough in terms of the front line.
Slow game. A little bit of a slow game in terms of power levels. A lot of tier 1 units and a lot of not best in slot situations. Yeah. We do have Bloodthirster IE on this Draven, and the big thing about this Draven is it can get stuck on these units, and you're already seeing this Draven get stuck, and there's no attack speed on the Draven, so it's just gonna continue going until we get through this Garen. But once we get through that front line, all of a sudden Draven gets the advantage. Yeah. Then it's only going to take 1 or 2 auto attacks to take down any unit. So if there's a lot of Dravens in your game, it's all about that front line. It's all about getting those Ironclads up there and delaying that ramp up as long as possible, as Kuzma gets 8th place again.
Unfortunate, not enough. Even once you roll the tier 2 4-cost carry, still need the rest of your board to be there. Speaking of, Jirachy just now finds the tier 2 4-cost carry, and the Vel'Koz has 3 abominations as well. And it feels like if you're running 4 A-bombs, or excuse me, 3 A-bombs, but A-bomb at this point in the game, you're in a pretty desperate spot, honestly.
I do think that Mort was intentional about adding 3 chase options for things like Mystic and Abominations, because combined they are 6, and you can add 2 more for that 8-person comp, but this is not where it's gonna find its kind of success, especially with a lot of these units still at tier 1, just unable to hit right now. But a lot of that damage is going through with that Vel'Koz, but that Diana ult might spell doom for the Jirachy, as we are going to fall. They're not having the best day in the world right now, as Chewy is going to win, and that's going to be 7th place for the Jirachy.
Yeah, Jirachy, I believe, made a tweet beforehand saying, like, oh, yesterday's games just rotated between it clicking and not clicking, and there was no real in between, and so they're just kind of like praying that tonight would be a night where it clicks. Not looking like that so far, unfortunately. But, I mean, still a couple of games to turn things around, get the top 3 at least to come back, but yeah, not a great start to the night.
Yeah, the Jirachy on social media the other day was pretty down on themselves for
Yeah,
this particular set.
saw
A
that.
lot of people, were like, I was just good on the chosen mechanic, right? And that's
Yeah.
the thing about TFT is you're going to have to change a core mechanic of your gameplay every 4 months or so. And, and some people have a harder time adjusting to that. And I definitely have had some friends that were amazing in the last set that are still kind of like the less okay, so there's way more context and way more decisions to make. It's not as, okay, we're walking down this path and there's a fork in the road, choose A or B, right?
Yeah.
In this set, it's you're walking down the path and choose A for a little bit, and then that's going to lead to another fork in the road that's going to have 3 different, you know what I mean? And for one reason, it's a spork in the road and no one knows why. And and that's what this set is about. So people who liked that kind of concrete directional thinking that Chosen's had, I think, are struggling a little bit in this particular set, as the Mordekaiser is going to chew through these abominations that have shown up pretty frequently so far in these lobbies, but not with a ton of success, as Marcel and that Cat 3 are going to lose. Chewy are still continuing on with that Desperation 3 HP, but we've got 29 HP from second to lowest, 30 HP lead right now for Tay.
Yeah, and you look at this board, and I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? There's a 6 skirmisher, 4 dragon slayer board. The skirmisher spat onto the Mordekaiser kind of like allows that. Of course, the rel is still in there as well, which could have been taken out. But still, like, this board's just nuts. We even have the Quicksilver Viego. Viego, one of the strongest, late game units, get him to tier 2. Viego can pretty single-handedly just turn the course of a fight. But really the main story, at least for me, is going to be watching how much value this double redemption skirmisher Mordekaiser can have. It is going to be one of the tankiest units, and also just provides that utility with the redemptions for the entire rest of the team, while Jax, meanwhile, is always just farming, scaling up with having the Rage Blade, and just taking out everything as we see here.
Ooh, even with that Frozen Heart, not enough attack speed slow to work through that HP. That double redemption is helping right now. We've got a Deathblade on the menu with the Dragon, so that Deathblade is going to find some late game potential. Where it's going to go, maybe the Trundle.
The Trundle.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, it's not great literally anywhere else besides Trundle on this board.
Well, and it's gonna just, man, that the Trundle scales too. It's the craziest. I think one of the newest units that we're really seeing find that power level, which in this set for 2-cost units just really hasn't happened.
Yeah, Strigar did fall during the last round, and the HP has got lower pretty much across the board. Now we're in single digit with 3 players. Gyalu Baby does hit the Garen 2 and Karma 2, so that board just got a lot more powerful, surely. Yeah, and these are the main carries of the board, right? Like, if Gyalu Baby didn't hit right here, it would probably be pretty doomed. But they go to 9, roll down to 0, hit, and this board is looking real dominant, but they can't lose a single round.
Chewy in the same position, but even longer, somehow has clawed their way up to a potential top 3, depending on where these matchups go, as we have an elimination matchup right now between Chewy and Gyalu Baby. It's going to be that Karma versus the Jax.
Oh, the Karma steps forwards. That means Viego's next target will probably be this Karma. Uh-oh. The cast is going to come through. Oh, gets taken out by the Heimerdinger, though. Feels good, man.
Yeah, Chewy's going to get eliminated. That's going to be a top 4. No problem for Gyalu Baby. Now we have got top 3 as Althenian and Chewy actually tie, but Chewy wins the in-game tiebreaker at 15, minus 50 HP. So Chewy will get that 4th place, thanks to the Mort God. And we're going to finish this out as Tay, Marcel, and Gyalu Baby all seem to be playing 2 skirmishers, it seems like, and a Invoker comp.
Yep, doesn't surprise me. These comps are going to end up being top 3. Oh, Marcel, I believe, had Marcel had the
Cap.
Assassins,
Yeah,
yeah,
Marcellus Cap.
Katarina
That's right.
3, and the Nocturne 3. I want to get a chance to see it this round. We will see the skirmishers face off against the Invoker board, and this is a pretty capped Invoker board. I believe this should win. However, Vigo does find the Garen. It's going to bring him into the GA state pretty
If there's
soon.
one class of units that Teemo is especially good against, it's skirmishers.
Yeah.
Remember, each auto attack makes them stronger. And what does Teemo do? Slow your auto attack. So it's not just per, DPS, it's also DPS over time that Teemo is taking away from those skirmishers. They will never get to that top level as if they, we're not going against that Teemo. And you used to be able to buy this Teemo and kill yourself during during PvE, which did happen on accident to me one time, but it was totally worth it for the memes. But yeah, we're going to stay with this Teemo 1, which is a totally fine unit because we're just kind of going for that attack speed mitigation at this point too.
Yeah, and the 4 Invoker. Both things are going to be super, super powerful for this board. Cornering everything against the Assassins, this is good. Now that the Assassins will jump actually before the units will move forward. So yeah, the cat does find the Karma though, but isn't able to take out the Karma right now. She will with this dagger, however.
Yeah, nice second dagger. The other thing that I want to point out is this Nocturne right in the middle doing some blend tech,
some cleaving, yeah, blending.
doing some cleavings. And the reason why that's really interesting is because the Nocturne did get buffed, but this Katarina, that was a little close. But Marcel is going to knock out Gyalu baby. We have our top 2. There's only about 2 more rounds to go.
Yeah, a capped Invoker board doesn't usually lose that matchup, actually. It was really the Syndra difference, but with Syndra throwing Katarina away, actually allowed for Katarina's next dagger to kill the Karma instead of Katarina jumping away. So anti-synergy there on that board, which usually doesn't happen unless you're going up against Katarina.
All right, we do get the Diana 2. Now that should help with that CC. We're starting to power up a little bit. We are rolling all the way from 50 gold as well.
Yeah, even a bit more, actually. Tay very well could have gone to level 9 and rolled to put an extra unit, but looks like they're on 5 skirmishers right now, dropping 6 skirmishers. Interesting. No Jax 3 either. Can the Jax hold up to the Katarina?
Ooh,
and the Nocturne
getting CC'd as well. The Nocturne, though, is going to have to use its Revenant buff, and it's going to do some, again, will it blend? Maybe. The answer is yes, it will blend as Marcel gets the lobby win.
There you go, Assassins finding their place. And as I was mentioning, you itemize Katarina correctly, you get her to tier 3, and hey, just get a Nocturne 3 on top of that, and you can win games, can take out the Invoker boards, the Skirmisher boards, all these cap compositions. Assassins still very well being in the meta. Very, very well played there from Marcel that game.
I totally agree. I'm really intrigued to see where the standings are going into halftime because I think some of the results kind of flipped on their head. But in the end, we're still seeing that diversity. Never mind, Marcel had the only result that flipped on its head was Striger. So Marcel, world record pace. World domination pace, if you will, for Mr. Ninja Warrior or Spartan Race there. You know what? If Marcel breaks the record, I will sign up for Spartan Race.
Yeah?
Yeah, I will.
Confirmed?
I will.
All right, so Marcel gets a
like,
first and a third, or...
Yeah. So if he ties or beats the record, I will enter a Spartan Race. I've kind of always wanted to do it because it's like, it looks fun, but... this is kind of like how I sign myself up to these things. I have to like make it a thing that I have to keep myself to. So yeah, oh, Marcel. Yeah, I will do it. If you break the record, Marcel, I will sign up for a Spartan Race here in Colorado at altitude.
Marcel said bet, so now it's really on, Boob. We got to see the record being broken here. Marcel, please give us this. It's really just riding on the line right now. But we are 2 games down, so that means we'll go to a break. But quickly, just Boop, your thoughts on the day so far before we do hop over to a break. What have you noticed? What do you want to see?
If you're able to get through the early game with 1 loss, right? You're pretty much sweet sailing to that top 4. I think the early game strategy that Marcel has been playing has been quite good, and if you're able to kind of stay in the top half of that leaderboard and win top 4 by attrition, it seems like you can actually hold on long enough to win these lobbies now. It's not about just getting top 4, it is about making it to the point where you can no longer get stronger. And I think we got a couple boards that got there this time around too. As Marcel says that they're in their Spartan race shirt right now. I could not have bet something better.
The widely anticipated, will Marcel break the record? We'll have to find out in a little bit because we're going to break, but stay tuned because we'll be back with more Fight Night Rising. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fight Night Rising. We are 2 games down and 2 games left to go before the possibility of Boop signing up for Spartan Race is an actual thing. We'll have to see. Of course, Marcel is on record-breaking pace, but with that, let's take a look at the scores again to see what Marcel and the rest of the cast need to get into at least that top 3 or overtake Marcel, because that's still possible. Marcel is leading the charge 20 points, double firsts. Tay is in second with 14. Althenian in third with 12. Gyalu Baby in fourth with 11. And Strigar with 10. Chewy with 8. Jirachy with 5. And Kuzma with 2. Jirachy is definitely one of the big surprises for me, but also Chewy. Like, Chewy had a good couple of weeks and actually won last week, but new patch, and that's you guys are talking about, Boop, going into today, it really just flips meta on its head. You can suddenly go from like it clicking, you understand how to play, to just like what's happening, what's going on, and finding yourself in the bottom 4 pretty consistently.
It can happen the other way around too. I mean, I think
Yeah,
we've all
very
had that
much so.
situation where like one day we're playing or learning something. I'll even talk about it in a non-video game type of way. In music, or when you're learning a skill, sometimes you practice something and it sounds awful, and then you sleep, and then you wake up the next day and you're just like way better, right?
Yeah.
And like sometimes it just clicks like that for you. And for this set, I think some people are still waiting for that kind of ball to drop, in terms of like like I get the concept
Yeah.
of this now. You know what I mean?
And we've all experienced that in TFT at one point or another, for sure.
Exactly. And like once we again get that context in, we have all of the information available to us, then I think we're going to see a lot of our familiar names get back to the top of the leaderboard. Because again, I mean, last week was our first week in Reckoning, and some of our players hadn't even made it back up to Masters yet. So we're still trying to figure out exactly where the set is going. And last week we saw Aphelios and Mordekaiser in every single lobby versus, it didn't win every lobby, but it was definitely there versus what we're seeing today, which has been barely any Aphelios, even though Aphelios is still pretty good. You got to build them a little bit differently, but not something that I want to throw away. None of the Rangers that you were talking about. The only thing that has changed really in terms of brand new comps that we're seeing is that Assassin comp that just won.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, like, I think in last, like, people were still... Oh, that was when LeBlanc, actually, that's right after LeBlanc got hotfixed, so people weren't running that. And I don't really think the Katarina thing had really been discovered at that point either, but people are starting to branch into that, especially a bit now, because it wasn't really nerfed, I don't believe. In fact, Katarina, well, I guess Forgotten, a little bit nerfed, but that's only really if you go for, like, 6. However, still just Katarina getting that 100 HP buff at just the tier 1 is pretty impactful, but... We're loading on into game number 3 into the carousel. Past it, and Marcel is going to be starting with Leona and a needlessly large rod.
HP is one of the strongest stats in the early game. There's not a ton of damage, and with so much damage mitigation in the early game available as well. I mean, we're looking at a unit with it built into their kit. A lot of these high HP units can just survive. In previous sets, they may die from death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? But in this set, the tanks in this last patch, the tanks all have seemed to gotten a little bit more consistent, particularly some of the tankier skirmishers. I don't know why I have to say that with an Irish accent.
Skirmishers.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's just like super fun to play. Same thing with Legionnaire. Anyway,
you make your own fun out of TFT.
Exactly, right? To each their own. We all take something different out of this game. As we have Hextech Gunblade or Bloodthirster on the menu. That's a good kind of little conundrum to be in.
Definitely. You can also look at it like the half of a Morello's. Probably don't ever slam the Spark, but that Gunblade assuredly is going to be on consideration, I suppose. Generally, the BT would be slammed over any of the other items there. But we'll see. It doesn't have to be the case. Might even just wait until 2-2 to see what the armory item gives. Okay. Oh, a couple skirmishers actually in there. Oh, Marcel, definitely thinking about those. Hovered to like maybe sell, but didn't. And a Trundle pair, I mean, we saw what Trundle could do last game.
At tier 1 the whole time. And the game before that was just tier 2 and it was nutty good. Is a tank. I'm willing to say it. If Trundle is a tank in this particular team comp, can take the damage because of that ult, can do the damage because of the Skirmisher buff, and the overall just interaction between how Trundle works with skirmishers as well as the way that Trundle works with some items. We saw that Trundle with a Bloodthirster and a Hurricane second, third frag on a lot of these rounds. So I think maybe people are still sleeping on it, even though I think people know that Trundle is good. There are a couple other skirmishers that we've been building items on this whole time, right? So why push those items onto a 2-cost unit, which have been notoriously underwhelming in this set so far?
Yeah.
So we'll see if that's going to continue being the case, or if we're going to find a 2-star carry, which I don't really feel like we have at the moment.
Oh. Bow or Shadow Bow, take your pick, and it's probably going to be the Shadow Bow. Trundle 2 comes through as well, and yeah, you got to take it, you got to put it on the board. Could even slam the Shadow Runeans. That's going to be a potential. Regular Runeans as well, still good. Regular BT still very good as well, and it looks like it will just be the BT slam.
This is kind of reminds me. So remember when we used to use Tristana in the last set as someone just to hold some items?
Yep.
Right, and then all of a sudden Aegon was like, "Wait a second,
let's take Tristana further."
Yeah, exactly. I think that might happen with some of our 2-star carries, because we've honestly, I think, haven't ignored them outside of just putting them in for certain synergies, right? We don't really ever talk about the 2-star carries ever. And so Trundle is kind of like the first time we are doing that, and it's going to continue working out, because even through those grievous wounds, look how much damage Trundle's able to bring back, not able to even get halfway through, and the ult ends and we're back to full health. Yep. And here we go, we're doing it again. This is a skirmisher, not a tank, though. You know what I mean? And it's gonna, and
it's just buying time, right? Is the tank. Look at Ziggs in the backline this whole time. Yep. Ziggs is going to be able to win this now.
Imagine if there was a Jax that was ramping up during that entire fight. You know what I mean? That's what Trundle is for. The fact that Trundle can both be the unit that stalls, does damage, and potentially wins you around for someone else to start getting online. Overall, just a wonderful unit. I'm kind of falling in love with my little troll friend.
Yeah, no, definitely super, super good. Tay is in, I don't want to say a conundrum here, but just has a couple options. Picked up the Yasuo at the end of last round. Now finding a pair, but a pair is a little bit too expensive to hold on to. Wouldn't be making econ, and we already have slammed a Sunfire to try to win streak with the 4 brawlers. It's still pretty good. I think keeping on this kind of keeping on this train. Definitely a solid option. It's going to win a lot of rounds, right? Flat HP, talking about the value of that in these early game rounds. It is very, very strong.
Yep, the more HP you have, the longer that Sunfire cape is going to chew through that those teams. And the other thing that you're thinking about, too, is the fact that only 1 unit died, right? So even though none of these units do a ton of damage, Nunu can do a lot of damage based off of how much HP you have. But the fact that just 1,000 flat HP was enough just to stall out on a certain unit where someone else is able to get you those kills, and Nunu's able to get up to that HP differential to where you can actually eat the unit. I mean, that's why HP is so strong in the early game. That will not be the case once we have a little bit more more evil Nomicons, a little bit more grievous wounds, but all we need is HP right now. You don't need the armor, you don't need the magic resist, you just need the stats. And what do brawlers bring? Straight stats, literally, that's it. And Set is a little bit nerfed. The Bloodthirster still works on him, still heal him up to full. It's just not as crazy as it was before.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the Set nerf wasn't even massive, right? It's actually just the tier 3, I think. In terms of the nerf, there it's by a 20% margin. So Set still can be a viable carry. It is hard to. Because a lot of what Set actually countered was Vayne compositions, because actually if Set is in the spot that he is right now, and say that Zyra, on the other hand, from Jirachy is a Vayne, Set can actually hit that board right from where he is now with that ultimate, depending on I think what exactly he's targeting, but he can hit that.
And the straight health, coming in advantage again, right? Just not enough damage to get through these brawlers. You don't need to do damage if the way that your team comp works is taking damage away from everyone else, right? Plus the Dawnbringer on that Gragas, no items, but lots of tankiness. And what that means that you're going to be able to keep your components on the board. But I think 4 brawlers is arguably the hardest comp to get out of in the game for some people. It's not really an opening that people have thoroughly explored. I think there is some value in potentially tier 3ing 2 of the brawlers, and then you're going to end up getting Volibear later on anyway. But we'll see where this goes after, because we could go Draconic, we could go Skirmishers, we could go deep into Dawnbringers, we could go Abominations. Like, look at all of those options, as none of those brawlers really go with each other outside of being brawlers.
Yeah, definitely. So moving on board with Althenian. Althenian has another Varus to start or try to carry this early game. Some redeemed as well, but we just have a skirmisher front line to complement the Varus. It's pretty unorthodox, don't generally see this, but it can still work out.
The skirmishers can be tanky enough,
Yep.
especially with that
Trundle. It's just nerf hashtag nerf Trundle.
I really think that might happen. So we're gonna need to. If you tier 3 to Trundle, I think you could carry it. To be completely honest with you, a lot like that Tristana from back in the day, where a lot of people again were just putting items on Tristana because she was item agnostic, and then you sold it and put those items on Olaf later, but potentially, but then eventually people were like, actually, these items are amazing on Tristana at tier 3. And so let's just see what happens. And I could definitely see that starting to happen in some more comps, because the heavy hyper roll comps and like the heavy long game Bill Gates comps, I feel like still have some opportunities.
Speaking of opportunities, here we go. We have opportunity for a Yasuo composition with Jewel Gauntlet and a Runeans. Jewel Gauntlet, yeah, going the Yasuo right there. Have a couple Legionnaires on the board. This could very well be a committal. Let's see what items come through. Oh, and Nico's. Okay, that's solid.
That's super solid.
Love to see that.
Jeweled Gauntlet on Yasuo. Great item on that Yasuo. But boop! Yasuo does attack damage, not his ultimate. And so another one of those completely item agnostic holders. You can carry the Yasuo into the later game. We actually haven't been seeing any Nightbringer play today at all.
No.
So we're probably not really going to, as I think the best unit in Nightbringers is actually a Mystic, which is probably not good news for your synergies. I'm talking about Morgana, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yasuo definitely. I mean, we'll see the power of it, because we're going to see it here in this game. At least like 4 Nightbringers. Probably it doesn't have to go up to 6. It can. But we'll see though. There's the bow, the Runeans. Yeah, Runeans feels like should have already been slammed. But maybe Althenian's having some second thoughts of, do I actually want to commit to this Yasuo or not? Because if you're committing a Jewel Gauntlet and Runeans, those don't really generally go in like a similar comps, right? You're not going to be able to pivot that into like a Vel'Koz and have it be generally that great. Sure, maybe you can find a Shojin's, that would be okay, but you would just want different item than Runeans at that point. So it is a very committal decision. And Althenian's at least going to see what happens in this armory phase before we do go any which route.
Ooh, okay, so QSS or Ionic Spark, or keeping the rod component. So that's the other thing about the armory that is the decision you have to make is, am I choosing an item for now, or am I choosing an item for later, right? How flexible do I want to be? Because once you combine that item, you are inherently less flexible than if you had those components, right? Just like this Jewel Gauntlet Slam, now we're stuck with the Jewel Gauntlet. Whatever comp that we do has to be a Jewel Gauntlet related comp, as we're actually selling the Yasuo, putting the Jeweled Gauntlet on the Lee Sin, so that's going to be doing a little bit of extra damage, as well as the attack speed slow. A lot of these 3-cost units have like a secondary ability to their ultimate, and that is Lee Sin's. It's not just damage. It's not a ton of damage on the AoE, but it is a pretty good attack speed slow as well.
Yeah, definitely. 50% attack speed, 4 seconds, I believe. Yeah, pretty solid. So again, as I was saying, the Jeweled Gauntlet, sure, we can pivot to something like a Skirmisher comp. Jeweled Gauntlet's a little bit awkward. It can find its way onto a Mordekaiser later if we go the 4 Dragon Slayer, 6 Skirmisher route. And that's pretty viable. And Jewel Gauntlet, of course, is a pretty solid Mordekaiser item. So we're not really doomed because of those item slams. I mean, you slammed the rune ends and then decided to, to pivot the Yasuo out, which still is solid. I don't really blame Althenian for it. I think the generally skirmish is going to be a lot more consistent at this point as well. We already have 5 skirmishers, just need either a Kennen or a Jackson, and we're already there, right? At the comp's like really, really key mid-game power spike.
And we don't need a bunch of tier 2 skirmishers if we have the 6, right? Because we have the 600 shield plus 6 attack damage on each second, right? So they're going to scale anyway. So eventually, with enough time, these tier 1 units are going to be doing enough damage for tier 2 units if they're able to make it that far. They are going to be inherently squishy as we're going up against. Now this is going to be that brawler Draconic comp for Tay. This is our first look at Draconic so far today.
Yeah, Draconic's very interesting. Generally, if someone finds Draconics in like 2-1 or 2-2, you just roll with it, right? And you're going to be able to bring that to the late game. But haven't seen a bunch of it, as you're just mentioning today. Maybe just no one happens to find it. The Trundle.
Heimerdinger did get nerfed, but the other Draconic units got buffed. Yeah, I think Trundle might be a little bit of an issue, to be completely honest with you. I don't think a 2-cost unit should be this strong through this much of the game.
Yeah, this like in tier 1 with no items there, just like, oh, he ulted. Okay, I guess I'll win the round now.
Well, we saw 1v3 earlier at like 4-2 at tier 2 with 2 items, right? Yep. Like it wasn't anything special, but it is definitely something to look at as Draven with a cloak.
Yeah, that's something special.
Yeah, Forgotten Spat too on this board. So
we've
got a bunch of 1-cost units outside of this Kled, but that Kled is probably going to get sold here soon. And we do have the Giant Slayer, which is what you said, a low-key good item, but it's just way too risky, especially to build early on.
Yeah, I believe the item got buffed, so there's no damage penalty on the Shadow Dragon Slayer now. So you're gonna be a bit, I guess, more enticed to slam it early. My main focus here is what value can Kuzma get out of this Forgotten Spat? Because it's almost like it baits you, in my opinion, it baits you into wanting to play 6 Forgottens, but 6 Forgottens is really just something to carry you through like stage 3, stage 4, maybe, but then it really just seems like it's not as valuable. You just want to play stronger units after that. We have the Forgotten Spat actually, but it's not useful right now because we just naturally put 6 Forgottens in. He was saying like, oh yeah, I need 6 Forgottens, and oh shoot, I didn't have it on the board, my spat, so.
I have them in already. Wait.
Yeah.
No attack speed, right? If we're just going to be doing straight attack damage, this is why I think the double attack, the Bloodthirster along with the inherent lifesteal is very good. Thank goodness this is an Ashe 1, or else 1 ultimate would have been enough to take that Draven down. But Tay will fall, but look at the gold difference. 0 interest for Kuzma at the time, but 50 gold for Tay, who is in first place. So you can expect them to lose a couple rounds as they are rolling into some stronger units.
Yeah, it's just, even to stabilize here, from Kuzma's point of view, sure, you're winning these last rounds in stage 3, but you're gonna be, I say the phrase a lot, but I guess like hard-pressed to find Draven once we roll down in stage 4. Can't really go 8. We fit in a Legionnaire here for the Draven, which is nice. 2 Cavalier buff is already in just for that bonus, but the items aren't even amazing either, right? If you think about Draven and what value is generally going to be getting, it's mostly going to come through with Last Whisper IE. There's just a lot of tanky options. You run into somebody with Ironclads, and Draven will just not be able to cut through them. He'll get stuck on those frontline tanky units, so... It's good right now, but this is a bit deceptive when it comes to the overall power level, and it's going to be hard for Kuzma to escape like maybe like 6th, 7th at best, unless the rolls just are really, really lucky from here on out.
Once this Draven hits like a Rel 2, right, they're going to be stuck on that Rel 2 for 80% of that round. Yeah. It's all about getting through. The way that Draven works, right? I've explained this before, but I think it's worth explaining it again. It's about single target damage, and so Draven has some of the highest single target damage that you have in an auto attack in the game. I think it might be the highest, and so knowing that, you're not going to be able to spread your damage around without a Ruden's Hurricane. So if you do get stuck on a really tanky unit to start out with, say like a Thresh or any of the knights that we talked about, or Ironclads, it can take about 20 seconds to get through the HP of a Rel, and by that time maybe the rest of your team has died and then everyone's able to surround the Draven. But if you're able to get through that rel a little sooner and Draven's able to access that back line, the second that first axe hits the back line, it's pretty much over if it's a 1v4, right?
Yep.
Draven is going to be like the A-Soul of the set, which is, you know, it's going to be one ult at the end, right? You're either going to lose by 4 units or you're going to win by 1. Right, and that's kind of how Draven works in this particular set as well. Curious to see where this cloak is going to end up being. Hopefully, this armory is going to be pretty friendly to us.
Hopefully so. I really can only see it being a Runans, like a second Bloodthirster. It doesn't really make sense at all. And there's really nothing else. I mean, there was an argument for perhaps a Declaw in such specific scenarios, but we know from seeing Jirachy's board at least that there's going to be some attack damage comps. There's going to be some, you know, Jaxes and Dravens as well. It was a bit high roll to get the, yeah, not great. These items coming through. Can't really make use out of any of this right now, to be honest.
Honestly, I think Shadow Declaw is the best option here, just so we can get a buff.
It's right? Just so like, awkward. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm right there with you. It gives us the best power right now. It's just not great. It doesn't feel good at all. And Kuzma doesn't go, okay, good. That does feel good. At least we found Draven 2 and Mordekaiser 2 at 4-2. Generally, if players are rolling down this heavily, it's because they're in desperation mode and they're just not hitting. Usually, so at least Kuzma has that going for them.
If they're not in desperation mode, they're kind of stopping at like 30, 20 gold, right? 20 is actually a lot, but now that we're, you know, 1 gold away from 10, meaning that we didn't feel comfortable about winning out on these next couple rounds until we got here, as the Trundle actually gets CC'd, and this Draven now with this Shadow Giant Slayer is actually putting down a lot of damage. It's going to be about these Mordekaisers, really, and this Viego, but the Draven is going to end up taking the dub thanks to that tier 2. Tier 1 Draven, I don't think does that.
No, I don't think so. I think it actually goes over the way of the Viego. That was like a triple item Viego, actually. RFC, Quicksilver, and Frozen Heart. Shadow Frozen Heart and Shadow Quicksilver, I believe. But the Viego very well could have stolen like everything if that was just Draven 1. Jirachy is working with a pretty solid early game, but now has some really, I guess I'll say, hard decisions to make. We have 6 skirmishers, but Draven's going to be the main item carrier and main carry here.
And the RFC is good on the Draven because if you read the tooltip, he does more damage if he catches the axe, just like in Summoner's Rift. And with the RFC means that you pretty much put super glue on his feet, and this is where the Draven's going to be unless he gets hooked by Thresh. But now this next auto attack is not going to have that extra bonus damage. Well, oh my goodness, this Thresh though making this Draven's life really, really hard, as Thresh is you know, a Zephyr in a unit. But I still think it's going to end up working out for this Draven anyway.
Yeah, the skirmishers, the shields, a bit too tanky. The Warmogs, Mordekaiser as well, a bit too strong. It's really just a Jax waiting room for Jirachy. As soon as the Jax comes through, boom, we sell the Draven, we put all these items onto the Jax, and we're pretty happy. Just need to get to that point, though.
And taking a look at the rest of the lobby now that we're on our final component carousel, it's pretty close, 61 to 33. So if top to bottom is within 50% of each other, it's still anyone's game, really. And we've already seen that Kuzma's Draven can take some wins. I haven't really seen what Chewy is rubbing, but everyone else is pretty even right now. Jirachy needs the Jax, and so what they're waiting for the Jax, which means that with everyone else being pretty similar in their HP totals, everyone else is probably waiting for a certain unit as well as the Jirachy. After my heart, putting the Thief's Gloves on the Trundle. This is arguably the best Thief's Gloves roll you can ask for the Trundle as well. So we'll see how good this front line is and how strong this Trundle can be in that front line, because if no damage goes on before that first ult, it's going to start with a shield.
I wonder who's tankier, Trundle 2 with these items or Mordekaiser 1 with the Warmugs. Probably the Mordekaiser still, but the Trundle's still very, very tanky, very hard to get through.
Unfortunately, one of the best ways to get through, like just the base damage, anyway, is the magic damage from the Vel'Koz, which the Trundle is actually going to walk right into. As time goes on. That's the one thing about skirmishers. You get taken out by one good Vel'Koz ult. There just isn't enough HP. But again, Trundle, last one alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, took down a couple units. I don't know. Maybe it's because I have an affinity for the character because I feel like, me and a troll have a lot in common. But in the end, I think in order for the Jirachy to really find success here, it's like you said, it's all about getting to that Jax.
Yeah. For Dragon Slayer could be played from Jirachy if they put the items on not the Draven, so they will go over to the Nidalee, run the Diana, and they have another Nidalee in the back pocket there to be able to run afterwards. I think I like this decision here, even if it's only a one round of value. It can still be the difference between top fouring and bottom fouring, or even winning the game. Every single HP at this point, especially because players are so close, matters a ton. Will the Nidalee, however, be good enough or be better than the Draven? That's really the question. She jumps into near the back line, but gets stunned out pretty instantly by the Kennen.
Kennen's such a great unit. AoE stuns. You get a more evil Nomicon on him too, and you're feeling it pretty rough for wear as this Trundle is.
Oh man, Trundle v Trundle.
Interesting. Yeah. So one more ult from the Trundle of the Jirachy. I actually think that might have been a little bit closer. But yeah, contested unit. Everyone's running skirmishers right now. So it seems like the way that it's working in the lobbies is the people who are running skirmishers, one person will end up reigning supreme, kind of like sharks in the womb, right? With those skirmisher comps, and then there'll be two different kinds of comps in the top three. That's usually how it's gone on, is the skirmisher players eliminate each other with like them setting one up for a potential lobby win versus a potential two other comps. Let's see if it's going to ring true this time around as well as it has last two lobbies.
Yep. I don't know about you, Boop, but I'm real excited to see this up-and-coming roll down by Jirachy. No items come through, unfortunately, but that's still okay. It means you already had a lot of items beforehand. The rolls are happening. There's already at least 3 Jaxes found by the rest of the lobby, maybe even more. Viego is huge. Take out the Kennen. Jirachy's on top of the rolling here. It's very fast, very intentional. Find Diana, find Mordekaiser, but what do you know? Still no Jax for now. That's rough. Can't really say anything else about it.
Second game in a row where they've had a hard time finding Jax as well.
There's one.
That's more than the last 2 games combined. So
yeah,
we're feeling all right. That is improvement.
Actually, like all of a sudden, with this Jax 1 found, this board is pretty nuts. The Mordekaiser 2 is here. We have a Darius as well. Didn't get the ulti off, but we have 4 Dragon Slayer. The Jax, the RFC, is going to be safe, and that's when you don't really need the Quicksilver as much. Rush Hook, unfortunately, coming through, but this could very well, if the Viego ulti comes through, no, it doesn't. I'm gonna say it could have been a Jirachy win. If that's a Jax 2, definitely it would be a lot easier too. Kuzma is fortunately, and actually a little bit surprisingly, stabilized a lot more than I thought. Like finding the Mordekaiser 2 and the Draven 2 when they did was not only I would say like lucky, like high roll, but just at the time that they did it as well, it's just really, really, really important.
And so this is in the business what we call donkey rolling, friends, which is you roll till you have 0 gold every single round because that's the only way we can get stronger. We're only at 22 HP, but if you look at the rest of the lobby, we're still pretty close to that 50% of first place. So again, 22 is not a lot of HP, but that does not mean you're out of it when the rest of the lobby is this close. Whenever the lobby is this close, I like to say it means the power is shared amongst the rest of the lobby, as it's going to be Althenian versus the Skirmishers. Skirmishers on the other side, but not as strong. Nidalee 1. Udyr 1, so we might have had a Nightbringer type of pivot, maybe.
Oh, Viego stole the enemy Jax.
But yeah, we got another Jax anyway. If I can't have my own, I'll take yours.
Yeah, I'll take the better Jax.
Yeah, Althenian running a worse skirmisher comp, probably mid-transition, finding the Jirachy, giving them a little bit of extra life.
Yeah, I mean, the Jax is definitely better, but Jax is not the whole entire composition. Definitely a bit of a Viego diff there. There's at least 3 skirmisher boards. Is there 4? There's at least 3.
At least 3. And this Mordekaiser skirmisher has been showing up in every lobby so far and hasn't won, but has top 4'd in the lobbies that it has shown up in. Again, it's just auto attacks, and any auto attack based enhancement for Mordekaiser will always find some value.
Definitely. It's going to be very powerful. It's going to provide just, I mean, providing the shielding, Mordekaiser loves that. A little bit of attack damage, like, doesn't really matter, but still, it's a nice little added bonus. Diana 2, Viego, both jumping left-hand side. The Viego's jumping right into the Heimer. That's huge.
Absolutely enormous.
And,
It puts an item on just
yeah.
to see if that's going to help, but it's actually going to make Heimerdinger stronger for the Jirachy. I'm sorry, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But it's going to be Jax 1 and the Trundle finishing things off for him. So,
Oh no,
like,
Tay drops to 6 HP.
Tay literally just made Jirachy stronger by
Yeah.
putting that last item on. I get why they did it. It was a little bit of a panic moment, as Marcel actually still on track for that record. I do not want to get in shape, so Marcel, let me know when
Nah,
you break
Boop,
the record, because I'm going to have to if you do.
you're getting in shape real soon. It's gonna happen. I believe.
Maybe we could
Betting
do like
all
a
my marbles.
TFT Spartan race. We could all get together and then just think about hitting in the Spartan race. What that would be.
I like how you've put yourself on the line here, but now that it's a reality, then you're like, okay, let's everyone else suffer with me now, so I don't have to
I'm
be the
in this
only
tweet
one.
and I don't like it. I have never been. That's exactly what I'm doing, and I did not need to be exposed.
Nah, I gotta expose your shenanigans right now, Boop. You're in this, you alone.
Okay, that's true. I got to eat my words. Anyway, yeah. For all of you who are confused, Marcel does a lot of Spartan races, and I was like, he's a highly ranked TFT player, athletic, has it all. If Marcel breaks the record, I will do a Spartan race. And it looks like it might happen. So Marcel needs to get second or higher in the next 2 lobbies in order to tie the record at Fight Night, with a little bit of an incentive as well, as we look at the Draven in the backline with that Giant Slayer, which in this meta would normally get a lot of value, but it doesn't really matter since we have a lot of that raw damage anyway from that Bloodthirster to help with getting to that backline. Again, once that Draven hits someone in the backline with that axe, you now have the advantage. When there are no tanks on the field, Draven will win most of those battles.
I'm personally reevaluating how good I actually think that the Shadow Giant Slayer is. And I mean, just like reading out, because it helps me, right? It's the holder's abilities and attacks do 50% bonus damage if the target has more than 1100 maximum health. That's the vast majority of units right now. So think of every single Draven auto attack just doing 50% bonus damage. Like, that's a good item.
I think
that's a very good item.
At this point in the game, in the early game, it's probably only like 10% of the units.
Yeah.
Up to level 5, right?
Right now, yeah.
At level 8, it's most of the units, right? So that's why Giant Slayer slams in the early game aren't really going to find you a ton of value, but find exponential value in the late game. And since we kind of slammed it super early, we've had it for a while as we are hitting the Ivern. And so this Giant Slayer is going to help with the Taric, with the Daisy, with the Ivern in the back line. And then once we get through all of that, that's going to help our single target damage a little bit more. But see, we didn't get through the tanks, and that means we don't go through you, and Draven is going to fall.
Yeah, eliminations happened a lot this game already, right? Chewy, unfortunate 8th, Tay 7th, Althenian in 6th. Almost at our top 4 even, but Marcel up at the top on a win streak.
Sure is. Legionnaire spat. This is not awful for anyone running Draven either. Hexa Gunblade, also pretty good item for this team comp. The
Trundle 3.
Trundle 3, friends, with and it's on the first place comp. Just saying. Just saying. I wonder if that matters.
Yeah, look at Trundle 3. It's like, oh, the Jax items. There's a Jackson there being like, I want to be like that Trundle someday. It's usually the way around.
Yeah, that Trundle is like the 15 seed. Who was the 15 seed this year that made it to the Sweet 16? Oral Roberts. Right? Or
sure.
But that's what the Trundle is. Just like, I don't really feel like has any reason to be here, but is totally happy and really taking advantage of their time. Here, getting getting the food, getting the drinks, and then bouncing when they're ready. That is where this Trundle is going. And like we said before, I mean, we never got to the Jax 2, so why move those items? We just ended up investing into the Trundle.
Exactly. And I mean, getting rewarded for it, right? 4 win streak, going into stage 6. The Gunblade. Okay, I was gonna say there's a couple points, couple places that could go, but Mordekaiser is definitely gonna be the best one. Viego's actually like not a bad gunblade holder as well, just healing himself up while he's stealing a unit.
Oh my
And
god.
it's skirmisher comp versus skirmisher comp. But look at Trundle's HP right now. Like, what? Huh?
He
He's
ulted
getting
Mord.
Viego'd.
Oh, he got Viego'd. He ulted Mord and got all of that HP. Almost actually survived the channel of the ult, but Viego, which is the Lee Sin of this set, can take down literally anybody in the field, as we do find our top 4 as gyalu baby gets there by 1 HP.
Yep, Strigar drops in 5th. We have our top 4. Marcel definitely on track to at least top 3, if not top 2. Even with top 3, I believe as well, Marcel can win the next game and still be 37 points, which is above the record of 36. So a top 3 will put them on pace. A 4th could tie it.
The record is available still. Marcel. Yep. Still in a good position to at least tie that record, which is 1st or 2nd place in the next 2 games. Hextech Gunblade on that Mordekaiser should have a little bit more efficiency that once we do get to that ultimate, along with that Warmogs. But wow, the damage from the Forgotten Mordekaiser and that Giant Slayer was just too much to handle. Giant Slayer might be. This Giant Slayer might actually end up winning the lobby based off of that item pick, as the Jax now is not going to survive against another Jax, as gyalu baby is going to put those Jaxes back into the packs. I don't know if the Jirachy had that Jax 2 just yet, but the Jaxes are all back. We do have 2 skirmisher players left, which is Marcel and the Jirachy, with Draven being our last team comp.
Yep, trying to find the Viego 2, not getting it, but it's still okay to have 2 Viegos jumping on both sides of the board. You're going to be able to at least threaten carries no matter where they're positioned. The Trundle needs to go, I guess, a bit into wherever the carry is, because it has to steal these very impactful stats. Like if Trundle steals the Mordekaiser here, definitely could win. It's like... what is it attacking?
It's going to be the Pantheon.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the last one was the Mordekaiser. You saw how tanky that Trundle was, but it looks like this is going a little bit better this time around for Marcel, but no record
Not quite
today.
Good enough.
3rd place.
Still on pace for it.
Oh, 36
could win next game.
36 points, that's right. So we could. So we're still on pace. We're not going to break it, but we can match it.
No, we can break it. We can break it.
6 points. Yeah. So 10 plus 10 is 20 plus 7. Oh,
plus 7.
This is 7 points.
Plus 10. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my.
Don't do math on stream.
I'm sorry, everybody. I used to be a teacher. Can you believe that? I taught potentially your children. This guy who couldn't figure out what equaled 37. May have taught your kids about
Basic
life.
Edition is hard. Basic Edition is hard. I feel that.
I still use my fingers for most of it.
By the way, Marcel with the 3rd, still on pace to break the record. Jirachy and Kuzma being the top 2. Kuzma getting to this point, I said it before, I'm kind of surprised, but it is very, very well done. We hit the units that we needed to on 7, and that's gotten us even to a level 9 position here, where the Draven is just going to be absolutely slapping. Same with the Forgotten Mordekaiser, right? All that extra AP from the Forgotten means it's going to be so powerful.
Oh my god, so much damage.
It's actually just so much. The game is just over here. Kuzma going to go from 8th all the way to 1st to game number 3. Wow. That board was nuts.
I have to do some Shadow Giant Slayer theory crafting. I think that's what... I mean, what do we talk about all the time? Oh, it takes so long for Draven to get through Rel and blah, 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 blah. Well, just put a Giant Slayer on him and you're good to go. That's all it took. Why did it take that long to get here? I think that we're just so locked in our ways in how we play the early game that if we don't find value out of it in the early game, we just don't build it. And there were 2 Shadow Giant Slayers on that board by the end of that game. And Draven had no problem getting through Mordekaiser or Pantheon or any of those units, even without crits, because it was just 50% more damage. That's it. Just 50% more flat damage for Draven after hitting, level 8 across the board.
And the rune-ends as well, right? To complement with that, the cloak fortunately did become a rune-ends, and I think that was a big reason, a big part of the victory as well. Everything kind of came together there. Huge props for Kuzma to make that happen. Like, once again, I'm just like, I was so critical of that board at stage 7, I'm like, okay, kind of baited into the Forgotten spat. We're going to keep running 6 Forgottens. Doesn't seem like that's going to be the best, but it ended up working out very, very well because the rolls came through. So,
you say sometimes you got to hit, right? Sometimes you just hit. I don't think that's kind of what we saw in these lobbies. We saw our 2 lowest ranked players, I think, in the lobby get first and second. And that just goes to show that each lobby is its own meta. Each lobby is its own opportunity for a lot of our players. And just because you haven't done well at the beginning of the day doesn't mean you're going to close out the day poorly. Because with 10 points, we'll see the scores here in a second. We might have a totally different scenario on our hands, and that we do with everyone eligible for the top 3.
Hey, so Marcel is already guaranteed victory.
That is true. He's a break or tie the record though.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. You go first or 8th, Marcel. You can break the record.
That is true. That is true. So if you want to break the record, I mean, if you are Marcel, I think you do that.
No reason not to.
Exactly. You've already won. So I mean, maybe because we're doing average placement to start first now, and so like. Yeah, Marcel has taken this thing, so let's see how far you can take it, right? The sky is not enough. Let's make it to the atmosphere.
Yeah, definitely. Because, they'll earn at least 1 point, and the max amount of points second place get is 10, so just outright wins on points, no ties to be had at all. So, yeah, overall, didn't really look at that. My mind was so focused on that, like, didn't even look at the other scores. Really even. Is it possible? Can we go back to the score screen? Thank you very much. Gyalu Baby in second with 17. Tay in third with 16. Wow, wait, this is actually just down the line, just by one
like
each time.
It's like we're in, like, 5th grade counting down from
happening?
20. Right? We're learning how to count down from 17 here.
Yeah.
This is pretty close. That means everyone has been pretty much within one spot of each other.
I think... Now, I'm no math major as well. I don't know how to do math, but I feel like from looking at this, everyone could potentially get into at least the top 4, depending on a lot of specific placements, but I think that's where we're at. Where we're at right now.
Totally. Chewy will most likely not repeat. It can't win, so they're potentially on Elimination Station 4 next week. But this is a thing, right? It happens most weeks, and I have to mention it because it really does happen a lot, where whoever is winning in this lobby will just nosedive to 7th or 8th, and then usually what happens in this lobby is what happened last lobby, which is where there's some spoilers. But now that everyone is available to potentially top 3, I wonder where the different play styles are, because Marcel can literally do whatever they want, right, in this lobby. So play something new, play something standard, go for that record. Why not?
Yeah.
You don't know when you're going to get the opportunity to do that again. We've only really, I think we've seen it get tied like 3 times, all by Numano.
Yeah.
And then,
definitely Numano, yeah.
And then, like, I think a couple people have gotten close. Like, I think Concentrado got close last set. But no one has beaten it since Sleet back in set 3, folks. Galaxies.
Yeah, that feels like so long ago, actually. And it's really, like, not that long ago. Overall, TFT, it's only been around for really, like, a couple of years, 2.5 years maybe at this point, has it been? Or something like that. Maybe, like, 2 years. Either way, though, still potential to tie the record. Might as well. I'm sure you're praying for the 4th lobby curse to come through for Marcel.
No, I unfortunately feel like have caster cursed a couple people, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut this time around, because every time the record has almost been broken, I've been like, I think they're going to do it. They get 7th. So
yeah.
I'm just not going to say anything for the rest of the game, because I will never forget when I did it to Infernix, where before the lobby was like, he's going to do it. He's going to break the record. And I think he got last. As the Kennen is going to get into the back line. So Kuzma needing another high placement to try to get into that top 3, set themselves up really well with that last win. 1-1-10, only 1st or 8th so far today, as we already have 2 Pantheons.
Yeah, that's what I was. We have a couple skirmishers, 2 Pantheons. Like, what? This is interesting. I've seen a Pantheon composition where you actually just like reroll Pantheon 3, you stack them with a few items, and can very much just like kind of never die and be very consistent. Already have Runans for the, dare I say, Trundle or Jax later on. And actually, now that I mentioned that, thinking back to Marcel's composition last game, the Trundle 3 was amazing in a lot of the mid game, and then in like stage 5. But as soon as we got to stage 6, it fell off of a cliff in terms of
Yeah.
power. So Trundle not looking like you can win the game. Other units like the Jax 2 will just outskill you, outdamage you at that point. But still is good to know that it can get you to that point.
Totally. What are some other units that were like kind of like that, where you would use this unit to get there, and then you would sell that unit to get to that Olaf or to get to, you know, the Talons a little bit later, right?
Oh,
So
in previous sets? Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, very, very
Wukong comes to
similar.
mind. Wukong holds like
Exactly.
talent items great, and then he won't ever
Exactly. And
scale to late
so
game. Donkey Kong was debunked as not it.
and I think it's pretty similar here. The other thing about these pantheons, if say in a world where these pantheons are actually a good unit, that's also 6 gold to start to start the game with,
Yep.
right? And if you want to make econ really early, you could have. So you either use the pantheons to make econ early by winning, or you sell them and make econ by lose streaking. But you're going to start round 2-1 with 10 gold, which is always awesome, especially at high level play. A lot of gold is kind of like the name of the game.
Yeah, definitely. Holding a pair is very, I guess it feels like it's greedy, but it just goes to the skirmisher comp that we already have items for, so it's going to be correct here from Kuzma 9 times out of 10. Maybe even more than that, honestly. Also, fortunately, another cloak came through, and cloak's generally kind of an awkward item, but it's amazing for Jax, right? Think about all the Jax items. They all require cloaks. If you're valuing Quicksilver, that is, between Runaan's BT and Quicksilver, but could go RFC and things that we saw last game. Leona with the Bloodthirster, not something you see every day. Yeah, I know like you had processed that way before I did because I was making my own point.
Oh my
and
god.
It's almost gonna win.
Oh my god.
It
no way. I think
so
this is happening.
Almost.
This is happening? Yeah, this is happening.
Huh.
Okay, best in slot item, Bloodthirster Leona. We just saw it. 1v1 a Pantheon. So, you know, the proof is in the pudding.
Wow. That's all I can really say about that one. I was so sure that unfortunately experienced a little technical difficulties where we're trying to get back into game very shortly so you guys see what's going on. I was like actually so sure that the Leona was going to lose. It was just like buying time, but no, Bloodthirster Leona, she was too tanky. She was too good. Fantastic.
That's how you compensate for a nerf, right? Hey, you know, you're going to be taking a little bit more damage, and they increased her base attack speed and damage, right? And so why don't we just mitigate it with a Bloodthirster? It's kind of the same thing. You're just getting the stats back.
Yeah, okay, back in the game right now, and ooh, this is very interesting. Yasuo with a slammed shadow RFC, and it's still gonna always provide the +1 range. The thing is that extra attack speed will only be there when there's no enemies within 2 hexes. And
so you would need 2 in order to get the proc, right?
Yeah, with Yasuo, that will never actually be the case. So probably just an item carrier for now.
At least we'll be able to deal with the Nidalees when they show up, right? And that can be really frustrating.
True.
And that's like the big dodge mechanic in the game. I feel like the set is that Nidalee, so that RFC is going to help. And if you put 2 RFCs on this Yasuo, that Yasuo is going to be swinging fast. But to expect 4 bows with 2 of them being shadow bows, right? It's going to be pretty tough to actually make that happen. I was able to accomplish it one time with the Jeweled Gauntlet, and it works really, really well. But you spend half the game not using part of the RFC's ability, right? So it's usually on auto attack based carries in the back line. So like you think Vayne, think your Rangers that are going to be able to use that a lot better than someone like a melee unit that's going to use the RFC. So don't put it on like the Mordekaiser or the Yasuo unless you have 2 of them. Definitely. And even then, I probably wouldn't even put it on them.
Yeah, it's a lot of dedication. It's like you're very rarely going to get that many specific components for that, but it's definitely possible. And it's those random scenarios where you get those specific items, like it can randomly just like pop off super well.
And this means that too, the Yasuo is not going to walk up in front of the Udyr, so the Udyr will get all of the aggro before the Yasuo gets up there. And this could one auto attack sooner, and that actually could have been a win after that Rend spear went out. But we've got Kuzma in first, Tay in second, the Jirachy in third. Looking at the bottom part of the lobby, it's Gyalu Baby and Striker who have had Striker's had a pretty inconsistent day, had a great first lobby, but still is potentially in that top 3 scenario. As we're looking
Yeah.
at Tay, 2 Legionnaires, we might move into Draconics. We could go more into Knights. We could go even more into Skirmishers, which is where it looks like we want to go right now.
Yeah, components that can go a lot of different directions. Of course, it really just depends on what we end up hitting. Tay was at 16 points, so Tay actually is sitting in like third place going into this game. Just really needs to have a top, I guess, like 2 game to secure coming back. Just a top 2 game. That's very hard, obviously, especially in the beginning of a new patch where kind of anything goes. However, looks like they will be losing this round. It's okay to go on like a 3-win streak into a 2-loss streak into Krogs. You're still like chaining those streaks together, as opposed to going win loss, which you're not getting econ either way. So 2 losses to 92 HP, definitely a okay spot to be in.
And at this point, too, we're setting ourselves up for other carousels. So Striker will probably pick first in the other carousels, but if you're anyone close to that, you're thinking about either win streaking and just getting the spot you get, or you could purposely try to get a better carousel spot, because while you're going to have a little bit more flexibility with items because of the armories, sometimes locking them in sooner is much better for you. You hit your power spike sooner than, say, someone else running your comp looking for the same power spike.
Yeah. Definitely. The pair of Yasuos leads me to believe that Tay does want to commit to this route, which is interesting, of course, given the fact that we're discussing the Shadow RFC earlier, that's not going to get any value, but it will just, of course, be your attacks can't ever miss, and you're going to get the +1 range, which is really what Yasuo needs. So maybe Tay's saying that's okay. Maybe Tay's saying that like you don't need the extra attack speed, you really just need the range. That's the only thing that's important. Other items for Yasuo are just so like flexible that no matter what, you're just going to get value. And we could be seeing that composition actually come through. Of course, it doesn't have to be. We could just be holding on to that pair just to, of course, be the item carrier to get us to something. Say, even like a Kale down the line, right? Like, Kale is actually like a solid carry, but we haven't seen any of it actually during this fight night, at least.
Won 2 lobbies last fight night, right? That's how
Yeah.
fluid these metas can be. As we have the Eclipse Cape, I believe is what it's called.
Yep.
It's going to tag every single person on the field before that Leona falls. I actually really like combining Eclipse Cape with Fallen Guardian Angel, because you might end up killing yourself with that Eclipse Cape, but then the Fallen Guardian Angel comes up, you get even more procs. You'll actually see your Sunfire top frag that way. I like putting those items on people like Morgana. I love playing Nightbringers and Mystics, which might explain why I'm not doing quite as well on the ladder as I want. But in the end, there's still going to be a lot of potential along with this particular comp, which is going to be Katarina, GA and blue buff. It's all about what that last item is. It doesn't really seem like we've really officially decided what best in slot is for this unit just yet.
Yeah, no, and gyalu did run the Katarina actually in game number 1 and got exactly 5th with it. So trying to go for a bit of a run back, perhaps. Maybe, I mean, finding the GA and the blue buff already is solid. Rolling down on 3-2 to try to find either Coven or just more Katarinas. Having no Lissandras is a bit worrying if we are thinking about the Coven. 3 Forgottens, however, 2 Spellweavers. This comp is okay. We are on a 3-win streak, but being at 20 gold here, not hitting Katarina 2, not hitting a Morgana, a little bit worrying. Not the worst, however.
20 gold is like where I want to be at 3-2, right? And
yeah, so, it's like the lowest that you want to be.
Exactly. And so if you haven't really gotten your team comp by that 20 gold, sometimes it's good just to stop, keep lose streaking, pick earlier on the carousel, because if you go below that, you're really hurting yourself for the next, couple stages, because you're going to have to start over on that economy again. So you're going to need 3 rounds just to get over 10 gold, right? Or get over 15 gold, because say you win a round, right? But a bunch of units that you need end up in the pack, you end up with less than 10 gold anyway, right? Yep. So we have to have that gold in the bank. That's why savings are so important. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't always roll down, or you should never roll down below 20. Say you're hyper rolling and you're one, I don't know, poppy away from tier 3ing it, then I say, go for it if you think it's going to get you those victories and compensate the fact that you're going to be a level behind.
Like you mentioned, Poppy. Maybe we'll see some Poppy comps, some Candyland, esque things come back. Not as of yet, however, but potential's there. Kuzma going for, it looks like, of course, going to be skirmishers yet again. Runa and Slam. Frozen Heart on the Diana is solid. Katarina is looking like not going to be powerful enough to get through all the shields, all the tankiness. The rail shields came through as well. But the brand, however, might be enough damage.
Oh my god.
And yeah, the brand will be. Brand supplementing like basically half the damage there.
Yeah, going through
nice.
a lot of branding exercises for sure. For their YouTubes and socials. Brand probably really great at that. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Agreed.
Yeah. But the brand is just one of those units that's just going to be a battery for the rest of your team, and it's going to get its own ability power in mana from that Spellweaver. So you're feeling pretty good about it. And the thing about Cat is this kind of reminds me of Kindred from last set, which is it's going to take a unit down on these stages. Once you hit like 4-2, 4-3, maybe not. But before that, you can expect Cat to take down a tier 1 unit, no problem, even if it's still at tier 1. But at this point, we're getting a little squirrely to try to get that tier 2 Katarina as we keep the rise with the tier. No, we're going to sell it. The tier is available now for someone like that brand.
Yeah, perhaps for the brand, perhaps for a Frozen Heart. To see exactly where it goes, because we do want to commit to Assassins for Katarina. Only really need the 2 tiers, of course. And yeah, it will be Frozen Heart. It'll probably go on the frontliner for now, Nautilus, and we'll go on to Diana later. Generally going to be the move. LB did win the last round, looking to go on a few win streak before the Wolves. And they're going to be, like, what's really going to decide the success or the downfall of this composition is the roles at level 7. Like, it seems like that's the case, of course, of a lot of different comps. You go 7, you hit, great, you don't, the game's doomed. But it really just does come down to that so much.
Yeah, that 4-1 roll down is almost expected at this point in time. Say if you're in the bottom 3 and you don't have anything going, like spend as much money as you can at 4-1 to try to start win streaking again. This should be for the brand.
Yeah.
The damage comes slowly, right? So if
but it will.
But it's coming, right? It's like TikTok, just wait. It's like just the thought of turbulence is scary. Right? That's kind of what brand is. It's like, the damage is coming. You just don't know when it's going to end up killing you.
Yep. Pretty much. It's a slow burn. You don't really realize it until it is too late. Brand realized it, though. As soon as he's in the 1v1. The Katarina clutch to take out the what was it? I don't know. There's something in the back that Katarina took out with her last dagger before falling. Oh, it was the Ashe, actually. Okay. Marcel swapping sides a little bit on this board. Know that they now can go against this Ashe and the Taric. 3 Draconics coming through. This could be an Ashe 3 from Striker over there. Great ulti from Marcel's Ashe, though.
A good ult from the Rel, too. Basically, everyone is still alive here. We finally do get through some of the front line, and those Ashe arrows into the back line, locking the carries up. Much better targeting for Marcel than Striker's Ashe there, since the Striker's DPS got frozen, where the Ashe that we see on the board right now got to keep going freely in the wind.
Oh, that's a pivot happening right there on that board that was scouted. So Marcel's scouting how many skirmishers in the lobby, because if we notice, these are some Jax items, and Marcel bought a Pantheon and then a Kennen in that or this shop, so the potential for a pivot is still there. Right, but how many people are going to be running skirmishers? How many Jaxes are going to be taken? If you're Marcel, you don't want to get stuck on, having to run that Trundle carry again into, stage 6. Sure, it was good enough to get a 3rd, but again,
that's not enough for the record anymore.
Not enough for the record. Yep.
So 3rd place otherwise would be fine. I mean, we've seen people win fight nights by getting 2nd and 3rd all day. But what Marcel needs to do right now is decide exactly what kind of carry he wants. There's a couple different options. You even have the Last Whisper if you want. Say you get a glove in the next armory, you have Last Whisper, i.e. It does look like we're going to wait for that, because we could also do Runins. We can do a Rage Blade, Hextech Gunblade as well. We have a lot of options, even though there's only 4 components on the board.
I love waiting here, actually. Marcel decides to not wait, but I actually do. I think the argument for waiting there is not only are you going to be able to see what's in your next armory for maybe some like Draven items or something, but you also get to see exactly how many Jaxes, how many skirmishers did get found during the 4-1 and 4-2 roll downs. So you can justify, like, is it actually worth it going for it if there's already like 8 Jaxes out of the pool? if there is that many, then sure, we can pivot into something else. Looks like Marcel is going to be pretty committal there, however. Does slam the caustic quicksilver. So definitely speaks of a skirmisher pivot. Let's see if Marcel can hit, though.
We were going to get the Shadow Last Whisper, which I will never forget. It was the first item I ever built in set 5. And then I put a Shadow IE on as well. And then I literally would auto attack like 5 times before killing myself. It was funny.
There you go. Yep.
For everyone else other than me.
Oh, there's a Jax.
Yeah, we do find that Jax. So we only need the one right now. We can either just pump attack speed or attack damage into it. We are going to sell that Varus here in just a second. We're going to keep it going and wait for this Jax to pop in a little bit later because we don't necessarily have everything we need to do the full pivot just yet.
Exactly. That's the question you gotta ask yourself when you're pivoting. Is this actually gonna make my board stronger? Sure, this is what's gonna be your endgame composition, but they're all only tier 1 units right now. And Marcel's in a position that even if he loses, he'll still kill most of the board. Could go to level 8 actually before really having to be pressured to roll down. It does make it a bit awkward if Jaxes are found between now and then, but it is gonna let you, if you do hit, just be well ahead of everybody else because you're leveling up first. And hell, it's even going to win this round right here, right? And the Aatrox being super tanky, and the Varus pumping a lot of damage through.
This is kind of what I built in that one game I was telling you about.
Yeah, the Aatrox.
The tank Aatrox. I did like the Shadows Titans on it, but survived until like it was a 93 point lobby win running Legionnaire Mystics. I don't know. I need to watch that VOD again to see like exactly what happened. But I mean, my rise carried me through the entire game once I got it, and then my secondary carry was just a tier 2 Aatrox that was pretty tanky. Basically, it just given him time to get to that last hole, and by the time we got there, we got enough HP back to kind of function as an off tank in the front line.
Yeah, that's what the Aatrox definitely did on Marcel's board in the last round. Probably going to do similar here. The Diana does jump into an amazing spot from Kuzma. It's not going to be able to, however, pull the Varus because Varus has that constant Quicksilver. So he's there, just pumping damage. And look at the Aatrox, right? Aatrox is doing similar things again.
Yep, and the Aatrox is going to get a little bit of help from this Varus as well. Unfortunately for this Varus, not Trundle is last again, as Trundle may be the better skirmisher early game unit as we move into Jax, but definitely someone you can help get you to a win streak up to Wolves or something like that. Definitely something to think about. I think there's a legitimate strategy there, doubling up on a Trundle, one with items, get a tier 2 Trundle on the bench, and then once you get your Jax, switch your items around.
Exactly, 100% right there with you. Marcel going to be picking last in the carousel along with Chewy. Hey, Chewy in last place, having a bit of a better game. That's someone playing spoiler. Always happens.
Oh, it's more consistent that there's a spoiler than our first place bottoms out, I feel like, when it comes to this last lobby.
Here we go.
Huge transition.
The pivot, boom, 6 armatures, 3 ironclad, 2 dragon slayer. The units are all there. We're just going to roll for some upgrades right now. Find another Jax and a third one. Just hit, ladies and gentlemen. It's just that easy. Viego is found as well. Get that Nilly out of here. Just like that. That's how you pivot.
Yeah, Nidalee is just a feast for your opponent at this point in time. It's better to have a Kennen 1 with a stun than it is to have a Nidalee jump into your opponent's backline and then just feed ult at that point in time. We're going to put our itemization on this Jax. We're going to also put some items on Pantheon. It looks like that Caustic Quicksilver on the Jax is something that you said is debatable for some people, as you know, he needs to get that ramped up damage, and having a little bit less HP can make that a little bit difficult, but no problems at all this round, as what a beautiful pivot. Just had everything they needed on the bench, and then intentional. That was gorgeous.
Exactly. I was going to bring that word up if you didn't, Boop, because I know you love the word. It was a very intentional pivot. It's just like everything was being sold. Literally press sell on the whole entire board, leveled up simultaneously, as well as just had the units to go in like that. It was just so well done. Like, that is like peak TFT right there. But I have to ask you, Boop, after watching that pivot, after watching the rolls and the Jax too, are you feeling a little nervous right now?
Yeah, I'm feeling really fat. I'm already thinking about like when I'm gonna need to run again, because like I mean I went outside yesterday and got an allergic reaction, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what, just from like being outside. So I'm actually really excited. I signed up for a Spartan race like 4 years ago, and then just bailed and didn't end up going.
Oh
And I really,
no.
really regret it. I used to be like in that kind of shape, and then I just got really lazy.
All right,
um,
the Boop training arc soon.
exactly. Like I was only like 150 pounds in college. I was nice and svelte, and then I got married,
Mm.
and then as the years of marriage went on, the inches around my waist also increased to match how many years I've been married. You know,
Oh,
started
is that
off
what
with like a,
happens? Is that
you know,
direct
like
correlation
yeah,
there?
like a
Oh man.
30, you know, a 30 waist. Now, you know, we've been together for 6 years, and now I'm a 36. You know, it's all correlated.
Wow, that's crazy. I think there's a subliminal message here.
I know,
But
right?
I'm not gonna share how much I weigh because maybe it'll make some people
Yeah,
sad. I'm
it's
just
all
gonna
just an
abstain.
excuse to mentally make myself feel okay about my life.
Definitely.
Anyway.
Right, as long as you're feeling good, that's the most
Yeah,
important
man,
part.
I'm here. I'm casting TFT with my butt. I mean, like, this is great. So, I'm still pretty surprised we're not seeing as much Draconic as we were in PBE, especially since a lot of those units got buffed. And Ashe wasn't touched, and Ashe was already very strong. So, Ashe
Yeah.
finding themselves in more of those Ranger team comps, but it's this comp that you're seeing right now that has really reigned supreme, with the Trundle
Oh.
carrying early and the Jax carrying later.
But the Jax isn't going to be tiered 2. Althenian was feeling the heat from the rest of the lobby in the early game. The pivot, not even the pivot, but just the committal has to come through, and rolling down, donkey rolling. All the gold on level 7 is unfortunate. The Marcel matchup as well. The Viego now with the jeweled gauntlet, as well as the Shoujins. This is probably just going to be lights out for Althenian, unless his Mordekaiser can do some real crazy stuff.
Oh my goodness, that cannon ulted literally everyone, even at tier 1, still finds a ton of value, steals the Jax, and that is going to take Althenian out of this lobby. We have our first elimination at 5-1. I believe one of the earlier eliminations of the day, as we move back over to Tay, who started off this game really well, but has fallen off a little bit as we have Ironclad. It seems like Mordekaiser is kind of like the spat holder for some of these later game comps. It's either Skirmisher. I've seen Ironclad before.
Even we saw Forgotten as well.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And Forgotten. So that's 3 different spat items that we've seen on Mordekaiser so far. And it makes sense. All 3 are going to do wonders for either your team comp, and the stats for the Ironclad spat are always going to be nice for that Mordekaiser. But in the end, if you have that extra spat item, it might be okay to put it on him, because, you know, I'm even thinking Dawnbreaker, Renewer, all that stuff can work pretty well on the Mordekaiser.
Definitely. Can the Draven survive? No, that is a Viego 2 with a Declaw and the Frozen Heart. So it's really going to be doing a bit too much work. Tay did have a good transition to get out of what they were running earlier with the Yasuo. And they've gotten to the Draven board. The awkward thing now was for that round, the positioning, because they are more focused on rolling down. But you have like a tier 2 Diana that's chilling on the bench, as well as a pair of Garens. And you generally run Garen to complement either a Dawnbringer board or a magic damage board. Those are kind of one and the same, given the fact that, you know, Karma is certainly like one of the best Dawnbringer carries, but it shreds magic resistance. But Draven's just doing physical damage, so Garen not really having a lot of value in this composition right now. Sure, it helps the Mordekaiser a bit, but that's only a Mord 1. Who's the item holder? The spat holder, right?
Yeah, a lot of auto attack based comps too on the board. Not a ton of Vel'Koz that we've seen in this particular lobby. We've seen at least 2 Vel'Koz comps every other lobby so far. Maybe I just missed it in the transitions, but we have a Draconic comp on the Jirachy's side, and one of it is a set 3 that Thief's Gloves on the Ivern. We talked about that a little bit earlier. I mean, that's gonna work out potentially in terms of that Seraph's Embrace, but we got to get those auto attacks going, and Jirachy is going to fall. Got second place in that last lobby, so at least today wasn't a complete wash, but 2 eliminations on that last round with Kuzma, who won the last lobby, and Jirachy, who got second, and they're going to finish in 6th and 7th respectively, as the rest of the lobby is pretty close.
Yeah, that Jirachy board looked like it was nearly there, but not quite. There was just a spare sword on the set, no Bloodthirster, which is extremely necessary, as well as like Titans can be sufficient over the GA, but you need to have the Bloodthirster. That missing just spelt disaster. Draven found as a way to attacking the set, and it was just lights out from there. But yeah, as you mentioned, not a full wash in the day for Jirachy. Definitely, probably not up to expectations, but hopefully we'll see them again, and I believe we will in the future.
Hmm. The other thing I don't know if you noticed is Striker picked up a Giant Slayer. If
Oh
there's
yeah,
any
the
group of
Shadow Giant
people,
Slayer or regular?
it was regular, but if there's any group of
Okay.
people that copies more than TFT players copy winning comps throughout a tournament day, I don't know. Uh,
Yeah.
if those people exist, because in TFT there's a
Oh.
lot of tactical borrowing where because I'm going to be playing in the lobby with these same players over the next 4 lobbies, so I
Hmm.
can predict patterns and stuff like that, knowing that certain comps are more
Uh,
valuable. You can adjust your play that way.
Deja vu. Viego finds the Draven because Draven's not protected. Does fortunately get stunned. However, Draven needs to turn. Stunned again. Draven, turn it to Viego. No, not happening.
Is there something on my back? It's like a kick me sign,
Yeah,
right? Like,
right.
why is everyone being so mean? I don't get it. What's not on my back? Oh, I'm dying. That's what's happening. Viego
Yep.
takes down the Draven, even though they got stunned 3 times. And in the past, the round wouldn't go long enough to even get stunned 3 times. But this time around, the rounds are longer. That helps units like this Draven, who's going the last Whisper IE approach instead of that Giant Slayer, which is way more consistent, but doesn't have the same top side as a Shadow Giant Slayer does.
Yep, and both those rounds that Taya lost to, I would just say lost to Viego, definitely could be prevented from being able to make the decisions about what you want on your board a bit more decisively, and actually dedicating time to positioning. Like the Draven's been in the third row for like over 3 rounds now. Now it finally finds his way into the back row with units actually protecting it now. Draven also walks forward kind of awkwardly there because one of the units ran backwards, but the Draven's not really finding enough damage. That was
Oh,
huge as well. But the
not
Ash
enough.
stun coming through, Tay's gonna fall.
Yeah, too much front line, and the Ash with Rage Blade, Static Shiv, actually very, very strong. Static Shiv, not a throwaway item anymore, as Marcel has a 50% chance of breaking the record.
Yeah, 50% chance.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
50%
okay.
chance I'm running a Spartan race. I'm like literally getting a little nauseous, like already thinking about what I'm gonna have to do, because I am not in any way,
Wait,
shape, or form
why?
remotely prepared for this.
It does need exactly a first to break the record.
Oh, for the 37, right? And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
so okay, and we might. I'm just gonna stop doing math. So we're gonna get some more gold. We get to interest. Declaw is nice. I'm not a. If there were a bunch of Vel'Koz comps, but there really isn't so far. Lots of skirmishers. Remember, Marcel hasn't lost really since that pivot. 1 round after that beautiful pivot. That, like, if there was like a montage of plays, that pivot would be on this montage for this
Oh
game.
yeah, 100%, 1000%. The montage or the pivot was beautiful, and look at where we're at. Right, it's still unfortunate no Viego 2, but we're still 40 gold. Haven't lost through basically, I believe, probably like all of stage 5. Yeah, we're on a five win streak, so we won all of stage 5. Is the Shroud going to be good here? It's not terrible, but it's also not great. It's really a battle of how much the Viegos can do.
Mm. Okay, so we're gonna get some knock-ups, we're gonna get some ghosts, and we're gonna get some Jaximus Prime right now. No problems with this Jax. Dragon's
Ooh.
Claw not really gonna do much for you, as Gyalu Baby is gonna take a couple more damage, some more damage to the face. Marcel on fire in first place, and we know this comp can win. Will Marcel break the record? I think this Draconic comp can be pretty brutal in terms of just tier 3 units on the board. But can anybody get through this Jax? It's all about getting through this Jax. It's Caustic Quicksilver, so no CC for the Jax. You're just going to have to do it the old-fashioned way.
Yep. Just raw damage coming through. Jackson going to a little bit of the back line here, seeing where the Shroud is best positioned. And yeah, it was looking like the right-hand side for pretty much every single comp there. The Jax is going to make his way through to the Ash very slowly. Has to go from the opposite corner. But the Pantheon, right? Pantheon's going to take so much damage from the Ash. She's going to get stuck on it for so long.
Yeah, and this is where you need some of that, armor break, right? Where Last Whisper or that Giant Slayer would be very useful. But because we also are Mystics, this game is going to last a very long time. We're already about 22 seconds into the round and the Ashe is fully stacked up, and there's no way Marcel goes through that. Even though the Ashe was stuck on that unit for so long, there wasn't enough damage coming out the other direction quick enough, and the Ashe is going to end up winning that round. And it might end up happening in the same way with this Aphelios comp that's also here.
Yeah, I'll have to find out soon. The question in my mind is definitely there's a couple of questions actually. Will Marcel try to roll down for a Jax 3, given there's already 3 Jaxes gone out of the pool, or try to level up to 9? 9's probably the more consistent option. But also, how well is this Aphelios comp going to match up? Because this is one of the first times, or the first time we're seeing Aphelios tonight, right? In this final game.
Yeah, and we have Dark Thief's Gloves on this version of the Jax, and we have the new version of the Aphelios. You have to build a crit on them because that base attack damage absolutely requires it, and it is doing a lot of work. We're just going to go ahead and slowly throw these little twigs into that Viego and take down Marcel again. Marcel does look like they had the weakest of the 3 comps, but Chewy looks like they get eliminated by Striker's comp anyway. So Marcel is in the top 2, still 50% chance to break that record. Is it going to happen?
Let's see. Get some Morellos. Morellos can be huge when it comes to cutting down that thick HP pool. On the other side from Striger's comp, that is going to be the Ashe 3 composition. We level to 9. Find 1 Viego. Can we find another? Garen comes through. It's okay. Viego 2. Okay, this is massive.
This is the win condition, right? And so now it's all about keeping Aphelios safe. Aphelios already has, his sister Alun, I believe, that's always with him, speaking for him, but it's going to need more than Lord on his side at this point in time, especially since we have the Morellos on as well. And we actually did some really good swapping for Strigon. We switched places with this Ashe, but the Viego did end up finding out exactly where it was. We're almost to that ultimate. Are we going to be able to get to this Ashe? We're right there.
Got stunned. Viego, okay.
Kindred ult! Oh!
Doesn't last long enough, though. Marcel's going to win this round and take Strigar to basically even HP. Maybe a little bit lower. Yeah, 25 HP to 27. So we'll have to see. There's not going to be elimination here. We're going to go to stage 7.
Yep. So we're going to see one more rubber match between these 2 players. I love when we get extended 1v1s in TFT because of all the small little changes that you see. Every single reposition here is going to affect the end goal. And this end goal is avoid Viego. Is Viego going to consistently call where this Ashe is? And it looks like Striker actually did not move anybody except those in front of the Ashe, as Darius is just going to bail on the Ashe.
Yeah. Darius jumps through to the enemy backline there. What can Viego do, right? That's where my eyes definitely are. Can find the Kindred. Can the ulti actually come through? Kindred ulti does. And the stun comes through as well.
Oh, Viego's
down.
Yep, this should be a win for Striker. This is thrilling. Okay, so we're going to get another NPC round. Very consequential. It's going to be blue buff.
Okay.
A lot of people, the units that could use this blue buff already have 3 items, which is that Viego. We could, I guess, put it on Kennen or Garen.
Probably Kennen, I would imagine, to apply Morello's faster to start getting that extra damage coming through. Yeah, I feel like that would probably be the best thing to do at that point. And try to get the feed back quickly before the next round. Jumping over to Althenian's perspective so we can actually get that.
Here we go.
All right, blue buff for Marcel. Both players actually find Rel 2, it looks like.
At the same time, even.
Yeah, finding a Tivo just to try to get more gold. Okay, level up the Kennen too. And get the Darius in over the Garen. That's going to be nice. It's going to provide that, of course, that armor shred. How do we approach this? Oh, it's just the corner protecting the Ashe versus what can Viego actually steal. Viego's gonna gonna jump to the right-hand side. I actually like this a lot. It's gonna make Viego a lot safer and gonna be able to just approach from just down the line.
The static shift, though, is going to be pretty tough to go up against if this Ashe is able to last at least 15 seconds. We have 5 more seconds to go with that Ashe, and we do have a Morello's tag in that corner. A lot more green health bars, but with this Kindred ult, this Ashe is still going to start ramping up. We're getting into the point where the Ashe is getting into its final form. We got to get through this Jax, and there are just too many units for Marcel. Will Marcel win out this round on 7-1? Was that enough?
Yes.
And we have a new record holder, friends. 37 points. Marcel is forcing me to get into shape, friends, as Marcel breaks the record. This has not happened in 2 whole sets. Sleet TFT, 36 points back in, I think, like the beginning of Galaxies or halfway through, finally gets taken down by Marcel. It's historical. We'll see how long it's going to take. It's going to take 2 more sets to break that record this time around, but snaps all around. Everyone in chat, throw those congratulations out, because this record has been around for a very long time, has survived some of the strongest players in TFT, and we're going to get to see the official score right now.
Let's take a look, Boop. We're gonna, okay, in a moment, we're gonna take a look in a sec, but we know that for sure Marcel, that was kind of the main story moving into game 4, was can they break the record? And they do. 37 points, gonna be victorious. We're gonna have to see who's gonna get that 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Of course, top 3, you know, gonna be coming back next week. Marcel being one of them, but top 4 is still getting a bit of money as well. $25 your name if you get that 4th place spot. And the players were so close coming into that, right? There was like 17, 16, 15, 14, 12, or 13, 12 down the line. So it was really, really intense day of competition, but Marcel really showing dominance. And a lot of it, right? Think about like on the back of what? And it was a lot of skirmishers, right? Skirmishers definitely showing up in the forefront. It turns out when you nerf other things and you buff pretty much every single skirmisher, that comp's gonna be pretty good, at least right now. But we'll have to see for next week who can innovate and find the counter. The question remains to be answered.
And so we'll get the scores to you here in just a second. I think Striger put a little bit of a wrench into some plans, as compensated for a lot of points for 2nd place. But let's talk about this record for a second and why it's such a big deal to me. One, I think Sleet broke it like maybe like my 1st or 2nd month that I was casting with you, Khroen, so I think it was just kind of like locked into my memory. But in the end, these are the types of records that won't get broken anytime soon, right? It took
probably not.
Almost, 8 months to break, more than that, probably a year to break Sleets. Let's see how far Marcel's can go as we get the official score tally. 3 lobby wins for Marcel. I mean, think about if you have ever won 3 lobbies in a day of gaming, right? Let alone Fight Night Rising. 37 points. Gyalu Baby at 23, and Striger finishing out in 3rd place, 22 points. Tay finishing in the money at 20, and then we have Althenian, Chewy, Jirachy, and Kuzma. Everyone finding some success today. Everyone finding themselves in the top 4 at some point.
Yeah, definitely, and you can't say it every single fight night, so it's very nice to see. Not like a full blowout one way or the other, but I mean, it was just a dominant performance, of course, by Marcel. We can't, understate that at all. Gonna have an interview very, very soon with Marcel. Try to see if we can get that online, but yeah, just crazy day of games, Boop, overall.
Yeah, super crazy. I mean, again, that record's been around for a very, very long time. I was getting to the point where I was like, we've had a couple people, we've had a couple people tie it, right? But no one has beaten this record or really even come close to it. But this is history, folks. As Marcel, I think you are here. Congratulations.
Hello. Yes, can you hear me? Thank you. Thank you.
I sure can. You are officially the highest point getter ever in Fight Night Rising history, once we move to the 40-point total. This is a little, you're not supposed to ask how you're supposed to feel, but you have a record on your hands. Has this happened to you before? Like, how proud of you are you of yourself right now?
Oh, super excited for sure. I think this is the first sort of real, any type of success I've had in TFT. I've only been playing since the end of set 3, and I've gradually sort of started improving each set, and hoping that set 5 is going to be a breakout one for me. So definitely stoked to have this one be sort of the starting point for that, for sure. And yeah, considering it's a record that was broken, I was just happy to win. To go even beyond that and break a record, obviously, it's like super excited about it.
Yeah, definitely. And you did it off the back of a lot of skirmishers. I'll kind of point the direction to like the meta right now. In this patch, sure, they went through a lot of iterations of like what was strong last patch, but now moving forward into here, what do you expect to come out of this patch, right? Like how many? I'll just say like how many metas do you think this patch is going to go through? Just was put out there, and how well do you think you have the understanding of it at least as of right now? Because having 3 lobby wins is huge, right? So like, are you at the forefront of this meta?
Yeah, to answer your question about will there be more metas, I think it's super hard to say, right? I think none of us could guess what happened last
Yeah.
patch, and definitely the same for this. I think while I was ahead of the curve, at least in the lobby played in this tournament, it's so easy for me to feel like I'm sort of on top of the game and then resting on my laurels, and then quickly by next week, early next week, I'll be playing the same comps and be losing and be sort of behind. So I think what we will get out of this, though, is more and more players will realize strong openers. I think that stays pretty constant.
Yeah.
And so then people opening with skirmishers, I think super strong around stage two, stage 3, early stage 4, and more people are seeing that. I saw it a lot in PBE, so I think I had a bit more experience playing that.
Definitely. And yeah, a quick follow-up before I pass it back over to Boop. Like, do you think that you generally perform better at the start of a patch or towards the end of a patch? Like, where do you see like your own like power spike there?
I definitely put in a lot of effort to try and learn the meta. So I will say, in a way, I do have a bit more strength earlier on in the patch. So definitely, hopefully for this patch and further ones, hoping
Yeah.
to take that into doing well throughout the whole patch. But yeah, I would say I try to stay ahead by watching VODs, watching streams for sure, reading Reddit.
Cool.
And so my last couple questions, I have 2 more questions for you. The first one is, I looked at your YouTube, and you used to be a pretty popular Clash Royale player back in the day. So have you been just kind of taking a little bit of break and coming back in TFT? Because, I mean, that's a record. That should make you think a little bit on what TFT future you might have.
Oh, I'm definitely fully on board with TFT. I had a YouTube channel and competed in Clash Royale. That was in mostly 2016, 2017, and then got busier with work. I was really proud of what I accomplished in that game. I had a really big YouTube channel. I hit rank 1 on ladder, played well in quite a few tournaments. They took a break from gaming in general throughout 2017, 2018, 2019, and then the pandemic hit. Got fully back on board with gaming, and that aligned with my interest in TFT. I think
Yeah.
it really fits my style of game, where it's less so about micro and more so about macro. I'm a boomer in that sense, or I'm way more about strategy. It's more slow-paced game, so I love TFT, and I definitely plan to continue with this.
Yeah, boomers represent. I'm right there with you. So last question, man. So, we talked about it. I'm running a Spartan race now. Thank you. I can't believe I can't believe I said that. I see you're wearing the shirt. So how important is it? Like,
video.
I know.
Yeah.
And so, like, in terms of how you prep for these things, like, how important is it for you to, get outside, stay in shape? Like, how does that affect your gaming? Like when you do get inside?
Oh, are you talking about this Spartan race?
Yeah, just like staying in shape, the Spartan race, to getting outside. Like, I literally went outside yesterday for the first time since quarantine and got an allergic reaction. So that's not been fun.
I will admit, I actually had a very similar experience. I was indoors for most of the pandemic, went out recently, and got a skin infection. So
Nice.
I know where you're coming from. And I think it's tough, man. I think you just got to find ways to get motivated. For me, that was mostly having buddies that I worked out with, people that are really sort of already in shape that would push me. And so I did that when I was getting really into Spartan races. Haven't done it in a while, I will admit. But when I was into that, definitely having buddies to motivate me was a big thing.
Okay, and just quickly from chat, what are like your 2 favorite comps right now?
My 2 favorite comps. Oh, geez. I feel like I haven't really. Yeah, I guess in this meta, I will say Skirmishers is fairly easy to top 4, and I've always really enjoyed Vel'Koz. I find Vel'Koz is easy to stabilize on 4-1, and can also have a cap of first in a lot of games. Not always, but I like that combination of stabilizes early, but also has a cap of first. So Vel'Koz and Skirmishers, I'd say right now, are pretty solid.
Cool, awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much, and congrats on not only winning but also breaking the record, Marcel. We will see you back next week. Do you have any final shout outs? Like, where can we find you on Twitch and Twitter and other social medias?
Oh, I'm on Twitter at MarcelPClash. I have not started streaming regularly yet. Definitely considering doing that at MarcelP_TFT. But yeah, besides that, just thanks so much, Khroen and Boop, for the great casting, and thanks for giantslayer for a great tournament.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll see you next week. All right, Boop. You have some training to do, my friend.
I do. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay, knowing that like I have people who are gonna keep me on it. Right. I need this to happen, so it's a blessing in disguise. We'll see. It'll be like a whole little piece of content, hopefully by the end of it.
Hopefully. This is a historic day, of course, Boop. The record is broken. You're going to be competing. It's just all sorts of fun coming out today, but do you have any final thoughts of the day before we close things out here?
Skirmishers, we thought that there might be a ton of variety, and today has actually been the least amount of variety that we've seen so far, and it's skirmishers right now.
It really is. I'm so excited to see the progression of the meta over the next week, and we'll come back and be like, all right, what we saw last week, it's all in its head right now. Maybe Skirmisher still being there, but some of the other things, but we'll have to wait a week to find out. Thank everybody for watching, but we'll have to wait again until next week before we see some more Fight Night Rising action. Good night.